right, it should be starting on all the streaming. There we go. Yep, there it is. I'm gonna go live on Instagram, and we could start the live on Facebook. Cool. All right, great. Amos, how's it going? Are you at least 18? And do you think you give me a good reason to believe in a God?
Yes, I'm over 18. I can talk to you about, probably. I think that I could give a decent argument without being anecdotal.
All right, sure. What's that argument?
Um, I think one main argument would probably be knowing the truth through morals, through morality. I think that you can't really um, find the ultimate example of morality without a basic understanding and belief of the Christian God of Christ. So I think that's where it all starts.
Can you get any type of basis of morality from any other religion?
I think that you find sex and examples. Sure, I think you can find other examples through other religions,
Hmm.
but Christianity, Christ, made claims.
Hmm.
Claims came true as the Bible states, and he led the ultimate life and the ultimate example. I don't think there's anything even close to Christianity. So
Right now, here's the thing: the Buddhists can say the same thing, right? Because they say that the Buddha lived a life of non-suffering and giving his basically his body in order to reach enlightenment, right? Because he can say the exact same thing.
sure,
But
Buddha
the
also
issue,
lived. Buddha also lived longer than Christ too.
right?
Yeah,
Exactly. But the issue that I'm having is that the claims that the claims that are within the Bible, there's really no way to prove any of it, right? Like Jesus existing as a person, sure, that might be true, but his supernatural abilities, we have no evidence that that's true. So
a
even
hundred,
if he
a
was a
hun-
cool, even if he was like a really cool guy, what does that show us?
1,000 years from now, how will we know who Buddha was?
We have records of it basically. They people write it down. Just like how we Buddha lived like what, like 1,000 years ago, which is how we have records of him now because people wrote it down. So we will have the same thing now, right? People will write it down. We'll
So the
have
same,
actual
so
records.
the same, so the same example that the Bible is. So we have
Hmm.
testimony of disciples of prophets that we also saw testimonies. We saw you know they gave thousands of years before he even hit the scene. Christ, they said that that the Messiah would literally walk through town on the ass of a donkey, and his people, Jewish people, would not claim him as their own. All this came to be true. They unalive the man. He didn't come here either to cherry pick. He didn't come here and say, "Here is all of my words." He led by example. It was like it was a non-anecdotal, which I love. You have sinners like David in the Bible.
Right. Okay. So now
You
real
know,
quick. So now real quick. So like this really doesn't really address what I'm trying to say, right? Because Jesus existing as a person, it's separate from Jesus existing as a supernatural deity. Those are two different things. Like Jesus is as a person, even if that's disputed, I don't have much of a problem with it. But if you're gonna say that he had supernatural powers, how do we actually show that to be true? Because that's just a story in a book. We can't go back in time to see it, right? And as far as we've seen today,
okay.
no one has done any supernatural thing. No one flies through the sky like Superman. No one heals someone like
You're right.
Professor X. So like, how are we supposed to? Why would we believe that when there have been other people who have claimed to have powers and we know they didn't? You know what I mean? So
I think the big thing here is honestly, what is holding you back? Your fear of believing in Christ. And what I mean by that is you probably think that not believing is freedom. It's like getting out of this belief that puts, a person in maybe in bondage or whatever it might do to you, okay? But I'm trying to understand, what does it do to believe on the testimony of Christ? Because you just asked the example. Christ was crucified. You could even say, sure, there was a man that was unalived unjustly, and his name was Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus Christ, okay? Now you're going, okay, well, they took him down off the cross. The stone was rolled away. That was another example. And then he came to life again. And then people saw him and walked with him and talked with him. And then he descended to, to heaven, to his Father, however that all plays
Right,
out.
but Amos,
Now,
Amos.
yeah,
This is my question. Number one, there's nothing I'm afraid of, right? I don't believe in any supernatural thing. I don't believe in unicorns either. That doesn't mean I'm afraid of believing in unicorns. I just have no evidence that it's true. And everything else that you said, what is the evidence of that? We know that, yeah, Jesus most likely got crucified on the cross because that's what the Romans did to state enemies. They crucified him on the cross, and Jesus was going around saying that he's going to take over the world one day. That's if I were to go around right now, become very, very popular, and shout on the internet that I'm going to take this country down and my country would rise up in its place, the FBI is going to be looking at me. You see what I'm saying? So the same thing happened with Jesus and the Romans, right? He was going around saying he's going to create a new kingdom and this one is going to go away. So yeah, the Romans are going to be like, who the fuck is this? You know what I'm saying? So yeah, of course, they went ahead and executed him because he's an enemy of the state. But him being executed for being an enemy of the state doesn't show that he walked on water. It doesn't show that he healed the blind. Doesn't show that he, rose from the dead in 3 days and then flew into heaven like Superman. It doesn't show any of that. All that are just stories.
again, thousands of years ago, the Bible, okay, was written, and it was how many? 40 different authors all came to the same conclusion, okay? And you're up here going, how is any of this true? Please give me another example of non-anecdotal, okay? Christ said, I and the Father are one. If you've seen me, you've seen the Father, okay? All that.
It doesn't matter what he said.
We know that
How
Christ
do we actually show that it's true?
No,
No,
you
Amos,
have to
Amos,
say that he was a
Amos,
liar.
Amos.
Hang on.
It's fine that he said that. He could claim anything that he wants to claim. How do we know that it's actually true?
How do we know?
Yeah,
We know through the words of the Bible, through the words that were written down.
that's not good enough, bro.
What do you want, dude?
I
The
want
air that you breathe?
I want actual evidence that is true. If we can show that something supernatural actually happens, yeah, I mean, if we were able to actually prove that, that would give more credence to all supernatural stories. But that wouldn't show that one is true.
How about sin? Do you believe that sin is a real thing?
No,
Wickedness?
what is sin? What is sin supposed to be?
Man's evilness?
Yeah, I think evilness actually exists. I define evil different than what probably you define evil.
I don't know. I think we both think evil is evil. I call it sin. Call it evil. Yeah, because that's never going to stop, right?
Oh.
So I think we share that. You and I share that in common.
Yeah, we share that in common. I think evil is something that causes massive amounts of harm, undue harm, massive amount of unnecessary undue harm. Yeah, that's I think that's evil. If we're both defining it that way, like in general, then that will put your God in that category.
I would put God in the category of what?
I'm defining harm as massive, unnecessary, undue harm. That's the general definition that I'm giving. We can specify later, but that's the general definition I'm giving. Massive, undue, unnecessary harm on sentient creatures. If we're both agree with that general definition, that would put your God in that category because he's done that.
No, it would not. Because if you create life, you can sure as hell take it away.
Yeah, that's no, I'm not even gonna argue against that. Sure, you can take it away, but any of us would say that a parent who unalives their own child is probably pretty evil.
Yes, but
Exactly. So the same will apply to God. We can't special plead here if that's the case.
yeah, we can.
Oh, so we're gonna special plead that God is just in a separate other category because why he's a super wizard?
Tell me the things that God has done that, unaliving people or whatever it might be. That's not for his will, for the better of mankind. If a nation is completely wicked,
Killing David's
let's say
killing David's baby. That wasn't for the good of mankind.
doing what?
Killing David's baby. When David
Um,
when David slept with Bathsheba and then God said, "Okay, you did something wrong, so I'm going to punish you." He killed David's baby.
the baby was unalived.
Yeah, he killed
Okay.
David's baby. That's
There's a
the killing that baby didn't do anything for mankind.
okay. What did it have done for mankind?
It did nothing for mankind. We're not better because that baby's dead.
Was that baby? What was the suffering? What was the suffering
The
then?
baby was sick for 7 days and suffered in agony and then died. And then David was like traumatized and depressed over it. What was the point of traumatizing David and torturing a baby? Like that's pretty sick.
Was that not the example that, hey, you unalived Bathsheba's husband, and he didn't understand that because he was like, I get what I want. David, he was a very misogynistic,
Right. So what did the
Yeah.
baby
So,
do? So David should have been punished, not the baby. Baby didn't do anything.
but wait a minute, you're making this example that, like, this is the problem here that you're doing. Life as you know it, living on earth is everything. And if you are in any way harmed on earth, that is the most terrible thing ever. I don't believe that to be true. See what you're saying? Like, you're saying, why are that? This is the argument. Why are people handicapped? Why are people, are unalived? Why does this happen? Why does that happen? Because you live in the now and not the then. Okay, you live in the everything right now matters. That's just the world of the idea of atheism, is what it is.
Okay, can you
Okay.
prove there's an after this?
I I believe that there is through
I
God's
know
word.
you believe it. That's fine. But do we have any evidence that that's true?
How
He got a phone call, y'all.
No,
Yeah,
I
go ahead and
didn't.
keep liking the live and keep sharing. Let's go ahead and get me to about 15K likes within the next 15 minutes. I appreciate y'all. Bundy Skywalker, if you're watching this, go ahead and request in the guest chat. I already sent you that request to go ahead and come on through. We will talk in a few minutes if you ever see this. But yeah, Amos, do we have any evidence that that's true, that there's an afterlife?
Yes, it's a biblical evidence for sure. But you know what? I think there's other people up here too. I don't want to be a hog and take all the time. So you can hack and hang out, I can mute, they can talk as well.
All right. I appreciate everybody who's here right now. You guys are amazing. Y'all are wonderful. I appreciate y'all. All right, y'all. I do see other people in the guests. Lowski, I appreciate you being patient. I'm going to bring you up, but you're going to be after Gamer and you're going to be after Sports. All right, Lowski? Gamer, how's it going? Are you at least 18? And do you think you can give me a good reason to believe in a God?
Yeah, I'm over 18. I think I give you a good reason.
All right, cool. Let's go ahead and talk for about 15 minutes. Everybody be patient. I appreciate you all. User, yeah, I did have a one-on-one today, but I've been inboxing him for the past maybe hour and a half, and he hasn't responded yet. So I'm just going to run a regular live until he shows up. All right? Okay, what was that? Gamer, yeah. Gamer, what is that reason?
Yeah. I mean, we don't have any records that Jesus performed miracles other than the Gospels.
Mhm.
And people, but we do have records that like millions or maybe thousands, I don't know, of people died after Jesus had supposedly been resurrected.
So?
And like, would you be willing to die for anything?
Yes, my family.
That's your truth, then.
Yep. Okay,
And
so
that's
this is what I want to clear up. People dying for something they believe is true is all good and well, right? I'm not saying that these people died for a lie. I truly do think that they believed it was true. That doesn't mean that it was.
right. Kind of like I'm not trying to be any instigator or anything, but like your family.
Mhm.
Like if your family were to just not be there anymore, you come home work from one day, they're just not there.
Mhm. That would traumatize me. I'll
Would you
be
be
pretty
willing
depressed.
to die to hunt them down?
Yep.
Could you even imagine having a, something other than your family in that place?
What do you mean?
and still be able to love your family?
I'm not sure what you mean by that.
Have something worth dying for that's not your family and still be able to love your family.
Oh, have something worth dying for that's not my family. I probably, if we probably sit here for the next like 30 minutes, I could probably think of something else that I'm willing to die for. Like probably like myself, or I'm willing to like defend other people. You know what I mean? Like if there's a geocide going on, I'm probably gonna put my life on the line to protect the people being geocided.
Right. And Jesus was sort of that way too.
All right, so I have no issue with Jesus existing as a person, right? That's not my problem. The real discussion or the real contention is whether he had supernatural powers or not. We have no way to know that if that's true. There's been thousands of people throughout history, even in modern history, that have claimed to have supernatural powers. So why should we believe that one, especially if we can't verify it?
He did supernatural things
Okay, how do we
for
verify that?
sure.
How do we verify that?
We can only do that with the first-hand account of the Gospels.
All right. So the Gospels aren't first-hand accounts. These were written.
Well, some of them are.
These were written like dozens of years after he supposedly died or got crucified, and not only that, they weren't written by that. Well, we don't know if they were written by his actual disciples. Like these are completely anonymous.
What is the difference between like a group of scientists writing an academic study that gets accepted to be a theory
Hmm.
and you having not put in the work yourself, so you're just taking them at their word, and
Um.
people that were writing the Gospels?
Yeah, we can cross-reference it to make sure that they're actually telling us the truth. Like thousands of scientists are not going to collude on a lie. That wouldn't make sense for them to do.
Hey, can I jump in real quick?
Nope, it's not your turn yet. Yeah, so thousands of scientists are not going to collude on a lie. Like there are like 20,000 geologists out there. Like
They could if the government made them, but yeah.
20,000 geologists are not going to all lie that plate tectonics is real. Like they're not going to do that. Like no, there's no amount of government money that's going to pay people off like that. Because even if the government were to give me $10 million to say that the earth is flat and record me doing it, I'm just going
How
to take the 10. Hold
is
on, wait, hold on, listen. If the government were to pay me $10 million to say the earth is flat, I would take that money, record myself saying the earth is flat, and then 2 years later said, "Hey, y'all, I was lying." Like like that's that like even like there's no motivation to keep up a lie like that. You feel what I'm saying? So when people say, "How do we know that all the scientists are telling the truth?" That's because scientists are very like they're rigorous about their work. You know what I mean? And they want to make sure that it's true, and other people can cross-reference them. You can't get thousands of people to collude on one lie. That's not possible.
how is God a threat to your family?
I didn't say he was. I said I don't think he exists.
Are you willing to die to not believe in God?
Am I willing to die to not? I'm not even sure what that means. Like if someone were to put a
Like if like this huge power were to come here and be like, if you don't believe in God, we will uh geocide you or whatever.
oh yeah, I'm dead.
And
I'm dead. I'm not
you're
gonna.
dead. You're willing to die for this
I'm
belief
I'm
that
I'm
God
probably
doesn't exist.
I'm probably gonna die. Yeah, because like at that point, you're putting me at gunpoint, right? To say to lie about something. All right, so here's what we do. I think in extreme conditions, yeah, sure, I would probably pretend to be Christian or Muslim if the jihadists were to take over America. I'll probably pretend to be Muslim. So now what?
You what?
If Al Qaeda were to somehow take over America, and I don't want to die, and I have a family to take care of, if I know that my wife and my child are going to be traumatized or devastated without me, then rational self-interest, I may lie and say, yeah, sure, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, whatever, and not really believe it because I want to be around for my family.
Right. Would you be willing? Do you believe that there's an afterlife for your family?
No, yo, bro, can you give me a good reason to believe in a God or not, bro? Because I feel like I'm having an interview now.
Yeah, you could be with your family forever in heaven.
I don't want to live forever. That's torturous.
You don't want to live forever with your family in heaven?
Nah, bro. I want to
Oh,
stop one
okay,
day.
that's so cool. Cool, dude.
All right, that was a waste of time. Okay, so guys, I appreciate y'all being here. You guys are amazing. Y'all are wonderful. Shout out to everybody who's watching me on YouTube. Sauron, I see you there. Secular Smoke, I see you. Well adjusted. What's going on, brother? Marsha, what's going on? How's it going? I appreciate everybody being here on my on the YouTube live. I don't think I have the chat going. Let me see if I could put the chat up. Can I put the chat up? Can I put the chat up? I don't think I can put the chat up. But anyway,
Can I jump in real quick?
not yet, Delph. It's going to be sports first, and then Lowski, and then you. All right, sports. How's it going? All right, guys, we're at 17K likes. Go ahead and keep tapping that screen. Let's get me to 25K within the next 10 minutes. I appreciate y'all. Y'all are wonderful. Love y'all's. Sports, how's it going? Are you at least 18, and do you think you give me a good reason to believe in a God?
Yeah, I'm way over 18, and I would love to talk about that. And I won't be long. I'll be in brief. First of all, the previous caller that was talking about morality, are you a moral relativist, or do you believe that morals are absolute? What's your take on what morality is?
I'm more on morals being subjective.
Subjective.
Mm-hmm.
Is there taking the innocent life of another one? There's no way to say that's subjectively wrong in your worldview.
There's no way to say that's subjectively wrong. Yeah. I can say that's subjectively wrong in my worldview.
Just subjectively, no, not objectively.
Objectively, yeah. If we go by like secular objectives, like the point of human society is to progress, then yeah, you can objectively say that's wrong.
Yeah, I think that. Well, yeah. With you, the antecedent there was important, right? That you gave a condition that makes reference to a scale of what is flourishing or objectively good for society. You're invoking a scale there. What's your objective? What's the standard you're measuring it against?
What do you mean?
In philosophy, it would be an ontic referent. What's the point you're saying? So you've subjectively said that human flourishing perhaps is the main goal of all society. How do you derive that as a positive value? What are you measuring that against to say that that's a positive value? It's invoking a standard. You're invoking a standard.
This is not a philosophy class, bro. I'm not sure what you're getting at.
I wasn't trying to. No, I wasn't trying to. What I was trying to say, and I apologize, I didn't mean to be disrespectful in any way. I promise you. My point is that I think without God that there are no moral objectives. There can't be moral objectives without a God.
There aren't.
And so I think that's what the previous. Yeah.
I think even if a God does exist, there still wouldn't be any moral objectives because all morals would be subjective to God.
Right, but he is well, I won't get into all that. We don't believe it's something is good just because God says it so, but God's very nature as a theist would say that it's good. So I would say I would just want to touch on that conversation a little bit because I think without God there are no moral objectives, and when we have absolute values, I think we live our life like moral absolutes exist. We say that things are wrong or things are saying right. We invoke a standard. The only way that standard could exist is that God exists. I would say, secondly, and I'm a Christian, but I'm just going to say God. I would say that God is the best explanation for the beginning of the universe or what we see. God is the best explanation for the universe as we find it and the beginning of the universe.
So what explains God?
Yep. Well, that's good. So I would say that I would run with things that all things are either contingent or necessary. And I would say that all of society is everything that we see is contingent. There must be a necessary cause for all contingent things that is not in itself an effect. It's the ultimate cause. It's the necessary cause. So I would impose, or I would invoke there's no such thing as an actual infinite regress. It must terminate. There must be a necessary cause for all contingent things. Everything that begins to exist must have a cause. So God didn't begin to exist. Okay, God has always existed.
Can I just say the same
thing? The universe
thing
always existed, however. Yep, sure, please.
Yeah, can I just say the same thing for the universe? The universe always existed in some form. We just don't know what it was before the beginning.
Yeah, well, you can't say before the Big Bang. That's like imprecise, right? Because we actually believe the best evidence sees that we have an earliest temporal boundary to our universe, and that actually there was a beginning of time, space, time, and matter at the points of singularity. So to say before time began is kind of
it's kind of
imprecise,
wonky.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. But the
the
singularity, we have no idea where it came from, how long it was there, et cetera, et cetera. We that had to come from somewhere, right? So like
Sure. So
our perceptions of space time are basically incomplete because of that, right? Because the beginning of all the cosmos we really don't know because it stops at the singularity.
yeah, so that's a great observation. I would say no matter what it is, if there's something before that, let's just say there is something before that, that doesn't do anything but back up the problem a little bit. I
Yeah,
would say
true.
there cannot be an actual. I would say there cannot be an actual infinite regress of causes and effects. I say that there has to be a necessary cause to explain all of the other effects and causes after that.
But if God doesn't have a beginning, he himself will be an infinite regress.
Nope, he wouldn't. He would be the necessary cause that starts all. I would say that actually God starts time.
God starts time, but God doesn't
He
God
exists outside of it, right?
if he exists outside of it, how can he start it and use it? Because he needs to use it.
Well, that's a great question. So he actually does it by beginning it. So it's an act of his will. So I would say that so I believe that there cannot be an actual infinite regressive causes. And the one we always quote is like David, the Hume Edwards theory says something like, and I disagree with this one. Obviously, it says that hey, how do we, they use an example of a book in our hands, and they say, how do we get that book? And he said, well, I copied it from a book previous. Well, how'd you get that one? Well, I copied
Copied
from
it
a
from a
book previous.
previous
Well, how'd you
one.
get
Yeah.
that one? I copied it from a book. Right. And they said, well, listen, that doesn't really work because there has to be an actual. Leibniz said, wait a minute, there has to ultimately be an author. There can't be an actual infinite regress of causes and effects because they can't be instantiated in the world of the real.
Right,
It
right.
can't be
I
metaphysically realized.
I get all that, right? But the problem still
Right.
comes with God because like he would have to because that same standard would be if you're saying that God is the ultimate like cause, right? So you're saying that nothing caused God. He always began. I mean, he was always around, so he has no beginning. We can just say the same. We can just, like I said, say the same thing for the universe. It always existed in some form. We just don't understand what form it existed in yet, right? But when
Yeah, but it was always parts. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm
So,
sorry. I
but when it
interrupted you. That was rude.
yeah.
I'm
So
sorry.
when it comes to God, for example, he's going to have to use time at some point. He can't exist outside of it. It's like time is necessary for him to do anything because there can't be before he created the universe, right? Unless he was always around and the universe was always around.
No, I would say that the first moment of time is simultaneous to his decision to start or to create,
Yeah,
and
but
that it's a simultaneous thing.
I
So you
got
have
you,
to
but
we either ultimately have a
right, I
we have
got
to
you.
have a
The problem
necessary
is
cause.
the problem is decisions need time.
No, well they can no, it can be simultaneous too. No, he can make the decision. The point he makes the decision to create is congruent with the first moment of time. So
All
we
right.
have to have a
So
necessary
is there a
cause. And this
before
is what
that
we're- I
time?
mean,
Is there a before that? Did he do anything before that?
before God's well, no, I believe that God existed timelessly. I believe there was no time.
There
And
there
it's
was
not
no
a
time.
metric.
So there
That's
there was no time, and then God
That's right.
made time.
That's correct.
So there was a before he made time.
No, I wouldn't use before. I would say sans creation. I would use a tenseless verb. I wouldn't say before because I would try to be precise. Before time doesn't make any sense. That's like saying what's
Yeah,
north
that's
of the North Pole, right?
yeah.
Yeah, we agree.
That's kind of my point.
Yeah. So yeah. So we ultimately, you and I think if we talk long enough, you and I would say, and I'll hang up. And thanks for being kind, man. I appreciate it. I really do. I think that ultimately we would say there has to be a necessary cause. You would point to the universe that's always existed, but we know the universe hasn't always existed. In fact, and the universe is made up of parts. It's composite. And so again, we have this composite thing that's going to be an infinite regress in your world of causes and effect, but it has to terminate in a necessary cause because again, this natural infinite regress of things and composite parts can't exist in the world of the real. It can't be instantiated in the world of the real.
We don't know if
There
that's
ultimately has to be an author.
we don't know if that's true though. We like things
We
can
do
go back.
we do.
Things
ahead.
can go back infinitely like there, I don't think there's anything in physics that stops it from going back infinitely. It could just be physics that we simply don't understand. There's
Yeah, well,
there's always been physics that we don't understand, right? People thought that the sky was a barrier and there was nothing outside of that, or we're never gonna reach beyond the sky, and then we did. So like there's always physics we don't understand, right? I don't think there's anything in physics that prevents things going back infinitely.
Yeah, and so mine is not even a scientific claim, and mine is just using inductive and abductive reasoning. inductively and abductively, that it wouldn't be, again, for the reason I gave, it couldn't be instantiated in the world of the real. Thus, it's metaphysically unrealizable. And so we have to have a necessary cause that's the best explanation. So the last thing we have to have, how do you get an effect with the beginning from a cause that is permanent? How do you get an effect with the beginning from a cause that is permanent?
I don't understand
If
what that
the
means.
cause is sufficient. Yeah, okay, I'll say it again. How do we get an effect that has a beginning if we have a cause that is permanent? How do we get an effect with the beginning from a cause that is permanent? If the cause is sufficient for the effect from all of eternity, its effect ought to be felt for all of eternity, yet its effect is only felt a finite time ago. Thus, how do we get this new effect without any antecedent determining causes? I submit that the only way we could would be a maximally great being who, by act of will, who's an agent who makes the decision to do so. That's the only way we can get new effect without any antecedent determining causes. And so that's what I point to.
I honestly don't understand what any of that means, bro.
Okay, it's all good.
I'm not sure what you're trying to say. Like, how do we get an effect from a cause that's permanent? What does that mean?
Yeah, so I'll say it again. It's probably me poorly communicating is what it is. I think there has to be a cause for all things that we see.
Okay.
I would say it has to be a necessary cause.
Right. Okay.
That means a necessary cause.
I don't
A
disagree
necessary
with
cause
that.
is one that exists.
I don't disagree with
What?
that on principle, right? There
Okay.
always has to be a cause of
Thanks.
something. What I do disagree on
Right.
principle is that that cause had to be some sort of supernatural, all-knowing agent that created all space and time, but somehow exists outside of it and doesn't need time. But was it before he created time? That doesn't make any sense to me. That's what I'm saying.
So I'm saying we both agree that there must be a necessary cause. The necessary cause that you say that you would posit that is not personal in will and doesn't have it's not a causal agent endowed with free will would not be able to. That can't make decisions. It would be causally inert.
I'm saying
It
that
couldn't make a decision
whatever
for it.
caused the universe does not necessarily need to be a disembodied mind that exists outside of space and time, because that doesn't even make sense.
But if so, all you're doing is backing it up one step, and you're still going to have to explain that which precedes that.
Right.
And I would say
we would have to.
for the reason I gave you.
I agree. We will have to explain what precedes that. That's all good and well. We just don't know yet. But I think saying I don't know is more honest than saying there must be a disembodied mind outside of space and time that did everything and has free will and uses time and created time, but had a before time that it didn't need. That makes no sense.
No, I don't think so. I think that what I'm using is again inductive and abductive reasoning to say what's the best explanation for what we see. I don't think that's even. It's not a God of the gaps, and it's not
Right.
it's
So-
special pleading. It's actually
right.
yeah,
So
yeah.
when we look at around our universe, right, every single thing that we've discovered about our universe, about our world, everything that we've ever discovered always had a natural explanation to it. Always. There's never been a supernatural explanation when it comes to earthquakes, when it comes to tsunamis, when it comes to lightning. Our ancestors all thought these were gods until we showed that it's not. These are natural causes of our world, right? So why would existence in of itself, the universe in itself, need a supernatural cause and not something natural that we simply don't understand yet? Oh crap. I think either his phone died or he had to leave. All right, guys, I appreciate y'all. We did get to 26K likes. This is the fastest I ever got that. I appreciate all y'all for being here. You guys are great. You guys are wonderful. Lowski is about to be you, and Delve, you're gonna be after Lowski. All right. I do see people requesting. Stay in the request box. All right. Stay in the request box. I am gonna bring you up, but I just don't want the live to get too cluttered. I don't want the live to get too cluttered, so stay in the request box if you do request up, all right? I just had to answer this. All right, so over on my Instagram, Flo asked me, can y'all hear me? Okay, cool. Over on my Instagram, Flo asked me, how do my parents feel about my beliefs? They're not happy about it, of course. You know, my dad's a pastor. He wants me to go back, et cetera, so you know how that go. They're not too happy about it, but you know, it's my life. They don't tell me what to do. All right, so Bundy Skywalker, once again, if you're watching this over on my Facebook, I tagged you, I have inboxed you, I've sent you everything to go ahead and come up on the live. If you see this soon, go ahead and come on up so we can have our discussion, we can have our debate. I'm not sure where you are right now, but we'll talk when we whenever you can get here. All right. So next is going to be Lotsky, and then after that's going to be Delve. And if anyone else wants to come up, Josh, you seem to want to discuss with me, so I'm bring you up, Josh. All right. So Lowski, how's it going, Lowski? Are you at least 18? And
Yes,
do you
I
think
am.
it give
I
you a
am
good reason to believe in a God?
interesting take on this. I think I can give you a reason to believe because I'm purposely like I'm coming from I'm not exactly religious. I mean, I grew up religious, but definitely didn't stay in church or anything like that. But I'm just coming from I've seen a lot that class conversation with space was really good. I like that a lot. Learned a lot of new stuff from that. But it's more I'm having the problem with it's a logical debate against a faith-based debate. So there's no way for it to ever unite. If one side is using faith as an argument, then evidence isn't needed. It's faith. By definition, I feel like faith does not require evidence to prove. So by using by saying, oh, it's by using logical points, I feel like there's no way to have there's no middle ground, essentially, that it's either yes or no. And that in that where once you realize that logic can't be used, I mean there's no point to not believing. It's a faith-based argument. So as long as no negative comes from believing in God, then there's no point to not believing in God. I mean, if the morals and values are what you want, then there's no point to not, because there's no other logic that you can use to say that this is false. There's no logical point that you could say that God isn't real, because I could say I believe in God, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, no, I understand exactly what you mean, right? Hey, Bar, I do see you in the request, Bar. I'm just taking ops for now, Bar, and I'm gonna bring you up later. I appreciate you being here. All right, so when it comes to faith versus logic, right? The issue that with faith is that it's not reliable for us to get to the truth or get anywhere. As a matter of fact, for example, we know that the ancient Greeks had a lot of faith in their deities, right? They had plenty of faith in their deities. There's Bar, he didn't show up. So the ancient Egyptians and the Greeks, they had plenty of faith in their deities. The Egyptians built pyramids to it. The Greeks built the not Apocrypha, but Acropolis,
Yeah, I know.
whatever that is. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I know exactly what you mean. I
exactly.
can't
They
remember
built
it either.
exactly. They built all that.
Acropolis.
There we go.
Yeah,
Yeah, they built all that, right? To like Zeus and Poseidon and Athena. Zeus, Poseidon, and Athena don't exist, despite the fact that they had faith in it. So we know that faith can still lead you to conclusions that are incorrect. It's not reliable. So, yeah, sure. If you say that, I read my Bible, pray every day, and that reminds me of a song I used to sing in church. But that stuff like that doesn't harm anybody, right? Yeah, sure. You can say that. But then we see, how does that develop overarchingly in society? What does it actually cause? And what have we seen in society? The damage that religious fervor and religious belief have caused. We've seen it back in ancient times. We've seen it in medieval times. We're even seeing it today with Christian nationalism, where you have pastors defending slavery because it's in the Bible, and saying that rebellious black men need to be lynched because it's in the Bible. You see what I'm saying? So these are the issues that faith can cause. Now, of course, there are Christians who disagree with that. Yeah, there are plenty of black Christians who disagree with that. My father is one, definitely disagrees with it. I know. The problem is that these people are praying to the same exact God and are reading the same exact book and are coming to completely different conclusions about what that book says. So what do we do with that? You feel what I'm saying?
So
Like,
that
there's
would
harm
be
going
a
to be
problem
caused.
of man, though, not a problem of faith. That's a problem of man misinterpreting. I mean, if the moral codes are there, then they're set. It's objective. The way that people twist them would be subjective. I mean, you did say, like, I mean, I'm very staunchly against moral relativism. I think that moral relativism is not, it's equal to cultural relativism. I mean, it's saying every moral system is good because that's how they do it in a society is not correct. I mean,
That's not what it
no
says.
way.
That's not what it says.
That's moral relativism. Yeah,
No, it's
that's
not.
exactly what. Yeah,
More relativism simply says that morality is relative to where you are. That's all. That's all. That's all it
Exactly.
says.
Yeah, it's relative to your society.
It's relative to your society, which it is.
Yeah.
It is relative to
No,
your society
it's not.
because hold on, hold on.
No, see, that's
It is.
my
It is. It
disagreement
is
with
relative
it.
to your society because in our society, for example, our society is very, very diverse, right? There are parts of our society that think that being LGBTQ is 100% fine. There are other parts of our society that believe being LGBTQ is the worst thing that you can be, right? But which one of those are gonna be right?
See, that's the thing. It's not a subjective. There is no subjectiveness in moral. That's only in moral relativism where you have that. So the overall, the non-moral relativist standpoint would be that LGBTQ is fine. Anybody who disagrees with it is outside of society's moral scope. So
Yeah,
anybody who disagrees is
but
immoral.
Gotcha, but Lowski, they're outside of of the moral scope in this time because 30 to 40 years ago, people agreed that being LGBTQ was absolutely wrong. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So morals change with society. That's what
Exactly,
makes it.
that's
Yeah,
wrong.
hold on.
That's wrong.
I got you. What I'm saying is that moral changes with society and with time. That always happens. 100 years ago, me being in chains and being shackled was absolutely fine according to that society.
And by a
But we
moral
fought-
relativist, they would say that they would look at America, or I mean the world in the 1800s, and they'd go, based on this society, slavery is moral, and that's totally wrong.
Yeah, you don't know.
That's moral.
Right.
Morals are subjective.
There's
a set yes.
So
and
so
no.
listen. According to that society, yeah, slavery was fine, but according to us, it is not, and we think that it never was. That's what moral relativism means.
No,
To
that-
them,
I
it's
completely
okay. To us, it's
honestly
not,
think
and we can show why it's not okay for
No,
us. They
no,
can't show why it's
because
okay.
moral relativism would no, because in moral relativism, all you would need to show is that it's okay in society. It's like you could use the caste system in India. If somebody in India goes, well, this is unfair. Okay, how is it unfair? Well, look at my society. Well, if you look at their society, you'd go, well, everybody's in the caste system. It's fair. No, it's still not.
No, that's not what moral relativism. Moral relativism, like what moral relativism is that it just understands that people hold different morals. It doesn't make the judgment yet. You can make the judgment afterwards.
It's that moral judgments can be true or false would be moral relativism. Yeah, I don't understand the caste system.
No,
so
not
that's a good call out by Patty Joey.
not really. The moral relativism
No,
simply
that's
says
the definition of like moral relativism.
You want me to read it?
Is that objective moral facts
don't
and
exist.
moral
Yeah, they
judgments
don't.
can be true. No, are true and false.
No, it's okay. Moral relativism is used to describe several philosophical positions concerns with the differences in moral judgments across different peoples and cultures. An advocate of such ideas is referred to as relativist. Descriptive moral relativism holds that people do, in fact, disagree fundamentally about what is moral without passing any evaluative or normative judgment about this disagreement, which is
So
what
that's the thing. There should
right.
be should be disagreement in
right, there
judgment.
should be, but that's descriptive moral relativism. They're just explaining to you what it is. They haven't gotten to the.
it's wrong.
Hold on, bro, slow down. Yes, that's what moral relativism is. We're saying that people fundamentally disagree on what is and isn't moral. That's all, right? We haven't made the judgment yet. We can still make judgments, but but moral relativism is just a framework to say that people disagree on what is moral. That's really it.
Yeah, but that's the thing. There shouldn't be a disagreement on what is moral.
That's
It's
always
the
going to
moral-
happen, bro. Because I'm
I'm not
my
disagreeing with that. I'm saying
exactly.
it's
So in
wrong.
my culture, like there's gonna be things that are moral, and in your culture, there's gonna be things that are not. You know what I'm saying?
No,
That's
no,
always gonna
the
happen.
thing, though. There shouldn't be.
But that's human nature, bro. That's always going to happen.
Yes, but
even
then
even
it's
the
human nature and faith.
even people who believe in the same scriptures and the same Bible disagree on what is moral and what is not.
100%. Yeah.
Exactly. That's human
That's-
nature, bro.
No, it's human nature, but it still doesn't make it correct.
What do you mean it doesn't make it correct? It's not
Just because it's human.
Hold on,
like,
listen,
that's
hold on,
the
listen,
thing.
listen.
Greed is human nature,
Listen.
so it's okay.
Listen, no, greed.
No, it's not.
No, greed is an actual action that causes. Hold on, listen. Greed is an action that causes harm. Moral relativism is simply a description on what happens in society. That's like it's like saying claiming to be Haitian is wrong because we shouldn't have different nations. that's
No, 'cause
nonsense.
that's not a moral issue, though.
Right.
It's only moral
I understand.
issues.
I
That
understand.
It's a
I understand. It's not a moral issue. I'm just giving an analogy. I'm giving an example of what I mean.
yeah, no, I
right?
mean, okay,
Give an
I get
example
what
of
you're
what I mean.
saying. Then, yeah.
So
yeah.
like that's that's just what it is. It's a description of how humanity acts. You know what I'm saying? That's what we do. Now, I would love for us to come on one moral accord, right? But we haven't done that yet.
Yeah, but I mean, but that's the thing of faith, though, is that faith would align a moral realist position.
I don't think so.
Well, I mean, but okay, I guess it would be perfect world fallacy, but it would be in a world where people look towards a faith for morals, having a set of morals would be the best thing. Because
But
then you have then there is no, oh, eye for an eye. No, murder is bad.
right. We can have a set of morals without having a faith. You know that, right?
Oh, 100%. But
Right.
and that's what
So-
society does by having a set of taboos.
Right, exactly. So, when it comes to this entire thing with faith, there are people of the same faiths who have different morals, and we see that with American society. There was no like, for example, in 1962 in the South, there were 0 integrated churches. Right, MLK couldn't go to a white church.
No, yeah.
Exactly, and that's how that was. But they were living the same faith, like the old
See, I
the
would
old
disagree. It's a construing of the faith. It's not the same faith. The white South had a misconstruing of faith.
Right.
They can call it faith all they want. It doesn't make it Christianity.
right, but
You can
that's
call it something. You can call a goose a duck. It doesn't change the fact
right, but
that it's a goose.
the issue that you're going to run into is that
Yeah.
those people can lift verses from the same Bible you're looking at and give you their interpretation. You can say that they're misinterpreting it, but they can say that you're misinterpreting it. How do we know which one of you are right? Because you're both going off of faith.
You're all exactly. That's my issue is that you could never have. So it comes back to the point. You could never have logical beliefs about faith. So faith in general is illogical. That's a fact. There's no that's a thing. So by trying to apply logic to faith, you end up in this turned around pit of going then there has to be some way to make it out, and you end up going towards society. If society considers something bad, then it's morally wrong. That leads you into a moralist relative position.
That's which is always going to happen, man. This is always gonna happen.
It's interesting. That's why I came up to talk about it. I mean, it's something that just like I haven't been able to wrap my head around. So it's like the more people you talk to, the more you can kind of gather. So you always talk to more people,
All right,
you learn
so,
have.
Lowski, we're just about out of time, but I do appreciate you being up.
No, thank you for taking the time to talk to me.
Not a problem. You have a good one.
You as well.
Alrighty. All right, guys. I appreciate y'all. We're at 30K likes. That is the fastest I've ever gotten to that much. I appreciate everybody being here. We're going to go ahead and get to our next guest. You guys are wonderful. Please follow me. Go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube as well, Volsi Thoughts. Subscribe to the Black Atheist Coalition as well. Subscribe to Black Atheist Rants. He's in the comments. He's going to be he's going to be here. Subscribe to my other channel, Nuance in Black, where we're discussing, pop culture, news, things that happen that affect the Black community. We're on our 4th episode. My homie Well Adjusted, my co-host Well Adjusted is in the comments right now on my YouTube. Shout out to Secular Smoke in the comments as well. You guys are wonderful. I appreciate all the support. We're gonna go ahead and keep this train going. Delv, I know you were here before, but someone got in line in front of you, which is Josh Holy Spirit. Josh, how are you doing, sir? Are you at least 18? And do you think you give me a good reason to believe in a God?
Yes, I'm over the age of 18. And yeah, I can give you a good reason, man.
Okay.
Early
I would say, before you get into that, I would say this. I don't believe Black people should be Christian or Muslim. What do you think of that?
Okay, do you think salvation has to be a color?
No.
Okay, do you think firefighters that are white T or black T or BT or whatever can't save anybody?
No.
Okay, so it's not a color thing in regards to salvation, right?
It's a color thing based on the religion.
Okay, so think about what I just said.
Right.
Um,
I understand that you believe that the religion offers salvation. I don't believe that. So that's what I'm going off of. For example, let's use your example of firefighters. You realize that in the Jim Crow South, there were fighters who left black people to burn in buildings.
hmm
Right.
So it was a
So
hard thing. Yeah. So it was a hard thing of that individual. That the heart of that person was messed up, right?
correct.
The thought process. So we go back to proving that that's not a color thing; it's the heart issue. So it doesn't matter.
Right.
So
So the reason why I think it does matter is because this religion was used to subjugate and oppress us. If the entire form of religion that you're following now did not actually come from us. It came from every single major black denomination of Christianity came from a previous form of Christianity that came from Europe. It didn't come from us. Matter of fact, I think if Christianity was allowed to grow in Africa naturally, it will actually look more like Rastafarianism or more like Haitian voodoo than it does the Christianity that we see in America today.
okay, do you have a source for that?
So it's for what?
For saying that our Christianity came from somewhere else outside of the blacks?
Yeah, sure. What's your denomination?
I'm Christian.
What's your denomination?
I'm Christian. I'm a servant of Christ.
I understand that. I'm asking which denomination. Are you Methodist, Baptist, which one?
I'm just a servant of Christ, brother. You don't have to have a denomination.
I know
I'm
you
just
don't
a
have to have a
servant of Christ.
denomination. I'm asking you which one do you have. If you don't have one, if you're not a denominational, that's fine. But what I'm trying to say is that some of the major black denominations, for example, are the African Methodist Church, right, or Church of God in Christ, COGIG. That's one of the biggest
Are
ones.
are
Though
are you familiar with the Ethiopian Bible?
I'm familiar with the Ethiopian Bible, yes, but none of you niggas is Ethiopian. Yeah, y'all ain't
Okay.
following that.
But I understand what you're saying, but the existence of something, think about the existence of words in salvation. We're going to go back to salvation. The existing of words has nothing to do with color. It has nothing to do with that.
I understand that
So,
it has nothing to
right.
do with color. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm saying that the
Yeah.
religion in
So
of itself. Hold
when
on,
you
wait.
try,
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm saying the religion in of itself was harmful to us. That's what I'm trying to say. Yes, the Ethiopians do have Christianity, but their form of Christianity is far different from what y'all practicing. Far different. Y'all practicing the version of Christianity that Europeans gave to us. Their version of Christianity is far different. If you actually look at it, if you actually look at their ceremonies, everything that they do is way different. As a matter of fact, I've shown black Christians Ethiopian Christianity, like what they've done, and they've called it demonic because they don't understand it. And I have to tell them these are actually Christians. That's how different it is from what y'all doing.
Okay, so it goes back to what I said about the heart, right? We keep going back to the heart. The heart of the person. It's the fruit of the person. It doesn't matter the color, the skin, or anything like that. Okay, can you explain to me real quick why did and I'm sure you're familiar with the Bible, right? Can you explain to me why the Egyptians who were black enslaved Hebrews?
The Hebrews were never enslaved in Egypt. That's a lie. Well, it's not a
All right,
lie. It's a myth.
it's a myth. Okay, so you're basically just demoting all archaeological evidence that we have in regards to the
There's no archaeological evidence that Moses or the Hebrews had an exodus from Egypt. The archaeological
what
evidence that we have is that the pyramids were built by actual laborers, like workers. They got
were they
paid.
were they black?
The Egyptians were black, yeah.
Were they black? Okay, so they both of these people were enslaved, right? The Egyptians,
We
the
talking about
Egyptians. Think about what I'm saying, man. The Egyptians were enslaving black people, right?
the Egyptians were enslaving other. Yeah, yeah. The Egyptians had a multiple amount of slaves. They had black slaves. They even had white slaves. Yeah, Egyptians had
So I
slavery.
just okay. So you just said that that didn't exist. Now you're saying
I
it
didn't
does
say it
exist.
didn't exist. I said it didn't enslave the Hebrews.
So
The story that
okay.
we see in the Bible of the Hebrews being enslaved in Egypt, building the pyramids, and having an exodus with Moses has zero archaeological evidence.
So
But
who
the
was
Egyptians
those?
did have slaves. Yeah,
So
they
so
did.
let me ask you. So who was those people then?
The people who lived in Egypt, or the people that went to war with,
Who were they?
who were what?
Who were the people that were enslaved? They were other Egyptians.
Yeah, they were either people that they went to war with or other Egyptians or people who were living in the area, essentially.
Think about, so other Egyptians were enslaving each other.
Yeah,
No,
it happens all the time, bro. Like
no.
the Egyptians, the Egyptians were not all one race. Saying Egyptian is like saying American, right? The default American is white, sure, but you're American and I'm American, right? Well, I'm Haitian, but still, like I
Yeah.
was born in America. But Egyptian
Mhm.
is more of a nationality. Now there is an ethnic group of Egyptians. Yeah, sure, they're still alive
Exactly.
today. So yeah, but what I'm saying is like when it comes to like
So
ancient
did
Egypt, wait, hold on.
so
When it
did
comes
the
to hold on,
ethnic?
hold on, hold on. When it comes to ancient
Yeah.
Egypt, right? When it comes to ancient Egypt, they didn't think
Hmm.
themselves as one skin color or ethnic group or anything like that, right? Anybody could have been enslaved in that. So there were it wasn't the Egyptians enslaving the Assyrians. There were Assyrian slaves. There were slaves that were Egyptian. There were slaves that were Nubian. There were slaves that came from Greece. There were slaves everywhere, right? So
All right.
it
So
didn't
I'm gonna
work the
go
way that you're
back.
thinking.
What were they black?
Yeah, Egyptians were there were black Egyptians, yeah.
All right, and they enslaved other blacks, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So as established it earlier, I said that it's a hard thing. It's a spiritual thing that's going on. It has nothing to do about culture or anything like that.
What does this prove?
I'm I'm showing you that there's deeper things going on outside of what you think.
We know that there are bad people, bro. What I'm saying is
Okay.
that this religion in
Okay.
particular was harmful to us. That's what I'm trying to say. But if you don't understand that, that's all good and well. Why do you think I should believe in, or what's a good reason for me to believe in a God?
Can you establish salvation in yourself?
What does that even mean?
Do you have the ability to establish salvation in yourself?
What does that mean? What do you mean by establish salvation in myself? What does that
Can
mean,
you offer? Can you offer salvation
bro?
to
Hold on,
anybody?
stop. Oh, wait, hold on, y'all. Jovan Bradley in the chat. What's going on? What's going on, Jovan? I've been a fan of Jovan for a little bit, man. Jovan, shout out to you, brother. Like you actually the one who inspired me to do stuff like this, bro. Like you've actually inspired me to do stuff like this. I found you on YouTube, and I was like, you know what, I could do this shit, and I started doing it. My lady told me go ahead and start doing that because you watch them all the time. What's going on, Jovan? Hey, my bad, Josh. I just kind of
No,
had
you
to say
good,
what's
man.
up.
No, you good.
Just gotta have
It
to say
just
what's up to him.
what
But
where I'm sitting, man, is that um I've kind of heard earlier you was talking about where your family didn't accept you for the decisions that you're making, right? You said something about that,
well, they don't
and
like it. Like I still see my family. I'm gonna see them on Christmas and everything. But like they just don't like it.
yeah. So can I ask you a question real quick?
Sure. Before you do that, actually, yeah, ask the question because I do want to go back to the whole establish salvation in myself because I'm not sure what that means. But yeah, go ahead
Okay,
and ask
yeah,
your other
we can.
question.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. So and I'm gonna ask you respectfully as I can. Um, have you asked before you made the decision now for wisdom in regard of the answers that you don't know? Have you asked God? Have you asked God for answers before you made this decision?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so the Bible says, well, you know this, but I'm just going to give you what the scripture says.
Mhm.
It says in James 1:5, it says, if any lacks wisdom, hold up 1 second. 1 second. I don't have it, man. Give me one. All right. I don't have the key. Oh, okay. All right, yeah. So the scripture says this. It says, if any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask of God. He gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. Your purpose of, you're familiar with that scripture?
Yeah, but so what? I understand what the Bible says, right? Like that's all good and well. The Bible says a lot of things. Why should we believe that's actually true?
Do you believe the Constitution has been established?
Yeah, because we see the Constitution all the time, right? We have
Right. So
we literally have constitutional lawyers. Like this doesn't answer my question. How do we know what the Bible says is actually true, right? Because for example, myself, I have no issue with Jesus existing as a person. I have no problem with David existing as a person. I don't even have a problem with the prophet Balaam existing as a person, right? They probably all existed as real people. Are there supernatural powers real? That's the question that we need to ask ourselves, right? Because none of us have a time machine. We can't go back in time. We can't establish that the prophet Elijah flew up to heaven in a chariot. We have no proof of that. So just because the Bible says it, why should we actually believe it's true? What's the connection? We have to build that bridge.
We have evidence. We have manuscripts. We have transferable information that has been passed down, that has been translated and transliterated. We have this evidence.
Right. So we have manuscripts. We have these manuscripts that says these things happen. Cool.
Yes.
How do we prove
Okay,
it then?
well, we prove it with other scholars, other authors, other people who have passed this information down. Were you
Okay.
there when the Constitution? Oh, hold on. Let me ask you
I
something.
wasn't there when
Were
the
you
Constitution
there?
was written, but we can cross-reference when the Constitution was written. We can cross-reference it with everybody else,
you-
and we have their actual signatures on the document. My question would be,
Yeah, do-
my
do
question
you
would be,
have- do-
my
think about
question
what
would
I'm
be,
saying, man.
my question would be, nothing in the Constitution says that George Washington flew to heaven in a chariot, right? None of it says that. The Iliad, for example, I'm pretty sure you read the Iliad back in high school, right? In the Iliad, Homer wrote that during the Battle of Troy, Zeus came down from the heavens and intervened in the battle, and thousands of Greek soldiers saw it. Is Zeus real?
Are you asking me that?
Yeah.
Spiritually, yes. Yes. See,
Really, nigga? Zeus is real? Is that what we're gonna argue today?
Look, when the thing about it is when you're demoting everything that's in spirit, because what's happening is this: you're debunking an infinite God that has infinite wisdom, right? So that's your first of all, you don't exist before Him. So your approach is to demote an infinite God that desires to give you infinite wisdom. So what you're saying,
Josh,
Think
is
about what I'm
Zeus
saying.
real, bro? Is there a guy on Mount Olympus shooting down
No,
lightning bolts to the ground?
Listen to me.
Is that happening?
Listen to. Okay, I mean, I hope you're not being condescending right now.
I'm not
Right,
trying to be
so-
condescending. I'm
Yeah, I think
really.
you are, because-
hold on, Josh.
I think you are, bro.
No, Josh. I'm asking a real ass question, bro.
Yeah.
You really
Okay.
think there's a guy on top of a mountain shooting down lightning to the ground?
No.
Exactly.
What I'm saying,
Zeus is
what
not
I'm
real.
saying-
Hold on, wait. Let me finish. Zeus is not real. So
Brother.
a manuscript saying supernatural things happened doesn't
Mm-hmm.
mean it actually happened. The Battle of Troy was real, right? Prince Hector and Prince Paris, they were likely real people. Prince Achilles, the warrior, was probably
Mm-hmm.
a real guy. That does not mean that Aphrodite blessed him with good looks, or that Zeus blessed him with invulnerability, or that they intervened in the Battle of Troy. It doesn't mean any of that. So I have no issue with Jesus existing as a person. I don't even have a problem with Jephthah or Samuel or Balaam or
But you
Gad
don't- but
existing
don't-
as
but
real
you-
people.
Okay,
But
you
do they
don't
have actual
believe-
powers? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yes, they do. That's
Okay,
what I'm saying.
how
So
do we
you don't-
show that?
There's miracles, signs, and wonders all over the world. And I'm sure I don't have to go. Listen, bro, I don't have, because of your background,
Mhm.
I don't have to go over the history of you hearing these things, because your family is a pastor. Right?
My dad's a
So I'm
pastor,
sure-
yeah.
So I'm sure you've seen this evidence, right?
No, I haven't. That's the
Okay,
problem.
Okay, check this out. Just because you haven't seen the evidence, you don't debunk a God that's infinite in wisdom, that desires to give you those things. Think about it, bro. Yeah, I know you're looking like that right now, but I'm just think about what I'm saying.
Yeah, because I didn't
you
catch
have-
that. Go ahead and say that again.
Okay, I'm gonna say it one more time. If just because you haven't had these encounters to happen to you,
Mhm.
that don't mean you set an approach to the debunk a God who's willing to give you infinite wisdom.
Okay, now I see what you're trying to say, because yeah, that was kind of gibbery there. Okay, so you're saying that just because I haven't had an experience of something supernatural does not
Yeah.
mean that the supernatural is not true.
Exactly.
Yeah. No. That is correct. That is
All right.
right. I'll give that to you. Just because I haven't had just because someone has not had an experience of something supernatural does not mean the
Yes.
supernatural doesn't exist. Cool.
Yes.
How do you actually show that the supernatural exists? Because every time we've tried, we've come up with bupkis, zero evidence. The second thing that I would say is
No,
that
no,
when I
no,
hold on,
no,
wait.
no.
Second thing I would say is that when I was in church, faith healers and people who speak in tongues and casting out demons, they would do that shit all the time, right? They would always do that, right? I know about the foot growing technique. the entire growing out your feet. That's bullshit. All right,
I
that's
understand. I
we know
understand,
that.
bro. I
So
understand.
so when it comes to supernatural claims, right? Supernatural claims require like I would actually who said this? I'm not sure if it was Richard Dawkins, but someone said ordinary claims require ordinary evidence. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. If you
Yes.
were to tell me that you have a bulldog in your house, even if you're lying to me, I would just believe you because we've all seen bulldogs, right? If
Yeah.
you were to tell me that I have a bulldog in my house, his name is Crypto, and he can fly in the sky like Superman and shoot lasers from his eyes, I'm going to need a little bit more evidence, don't you think?
Okay, so that's exactly what I'm saying. You know the Bible. Nicodemus thought he had all the evidence until he had an encounter with Jesus. Paul, I mean, I don't have to. I mean, I'm giving it to you because I'm sure you read it.
I read
Paul thought he had all the evidence. Matter of fact, he even denied Jesus, and then he had an encounter. Okay,
I'm
he had
glad
an
you brought that
encounter.
up.
All right,
I'm actually glad you brought that up. I'm glad you brought that up
I'm-
because I've always said when people have ever can y'all hear me well, right? Y'all can hear me? All right, cool. When people have said what would take me to believe in a God, I've always said give everyone on earth at the same time in their own language the road to Damascus experience. Because what happened to the road on Damascus? Paul saw Jesus in the sky. Paul was Greek. So Jesus spoke to him in Greek.
Right.
So that means that Jesus spoke Aramaic. He didn't speak Greek. So, but Paul saw Jesus in Greek, right?
Think about it.
So I
Think
said,
about
hold on,
it.
wait, wait.
Hear
So
me
I
real
say,
quick.
wait, hold on, wait. So I say, I always say this: if God want the evidence for God would be that experience to everybody, all 7 billion of us across the planet at the same time in our own language, and everyone survives. Because remember, we have people planes in the sky, we have submarines on the in under the ocean. If everyone got that same experience at the same time in their own language, that would be impossible. Even if it were aliens, right? We would have to explain why did aliens choose that specific one, right?
Right.
So
So,
that
yeah,
would
that's
be
good.
evidence of
Okay.
God because that's extraordinary. That would be evidence of God. People saying I have an experience, not evidence, bro.
Okay. So first of all, is that it's not impossible for a God that has infinite power. That's the first thing. And then you don't have the years, the education, or believe in spirituality to demote that. That's the first thing. You can't demote that because you don't have this. You will have to have a divine thought to set standards on a divine being. You don't have you don't have the divine thought because you don't believe things that are spirit, right?
I used to.
Okay, so this is what I'm saying. You used to believe those things, and you've probably had an encounter. You didn't believe some of the lies. Yeah, it is true. There are some people that out here that's faking it. There are some people that's faking the growing leg and laying hands and spitting and doing a lot of things that may not be true. But you haven't had an encounter with somebody that actually have a testimony. There's been some people with a testimony of I don't know if you would give me time to share my testimony, but
Now I don't go off testimony. The reason why I don't go
that's
off
cool. That's cool.
the reason
That's
why I
cool.
don't hold on. The reason why I don't go off testimony or personal experience is
Yeah.
because there are people who have personal experience of seeing Elvis. Is
Yeah.
Elvis alive right now?
Listen, man, I don't have the conversation about Elvis, but what I won't do, I won't discredit anybody's encounter.
Right,
That's
right.
what I
So
won't do.
here's
See
what
I'm
I
saying?
would say.
So,
Here's what I say. All right. So the thing is, me, I accept that people have personal experiences,
yeah.
but that what they attribute that experience to is what I doubt, because we
And
all,
you-
everybody has had.
You have the
Hold on,
freedom
wait,
to
wait, hold on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Everybody has had some sort of woo-woo personal experience. Most people have had that across our world because of how we are how we're conditioned to believe, right? My sister had a personal experience with a mermaid until she described it to me, and I said, "Ma'am, that's a crocodile." You see what I'm saying? So we've all had personal experience with something, but just because you've had that doesn't mean what you attribute it to is actually true. All right, I want you to respond to that, Josh, and then Coco and Jovan, you guys can go ahead. Jovan, I appreciate you being here because I've been a fan of you for a while. Coco, that's my boy.
Let's
If there's,
go.
if there's another Christian in the request, please go ahead and come on up because I don't want Josh to get jumped. But whichever one of y'all want to go first, Jovan or Coco, whichever I want to go first, y'all can start.
Yeah, I can go first. But yeah, like when it comes to like personal testimony, I don't really grant like any personal testimony to be like divine, right? And that's going to be on like historical priors. So, we've known that humans for the longest time have been trying to explain phenomenon using like divinity, right? Only for like, you know, further examination and exploration and discoveries and science being made to like dispel those like personal experiences, right? So like we used to think that like schizophrenia patients were possessed by demons, and we used to think that like, you know, a Greek god would like ride around in the sky and pull the sun, and people used to believe like a lot of things that were supernatural. And then like science and more discovery of like neurology and astrology or astronomy, I always get those two confused, led to us dispelling those rumors. And then also, I mean, you just have like a bunch of frauds, right? Like I'm Nigerian and I hear tons of stuff about like Nigerian priests curing people only to find out that they were actors or like scammers. So I think when it comes to like these supernatural claims, they're going to require some kind of like extra amount of evidence, while naturalistic claims like Jesus existing require less. It's highly probable Jesus existed. And then I guess the last thing I'll say is when it comes to Paul, I don't even grant that his experience on the road to Damascus was divine. Paul didn't even see Jesus. Paul never met Jesus. He walked in a desert and saw a bright light and heard voices, and
What
it was claiming to be Jesus. So
my
I
re-
don't even
my
grant that as
response real
like,
quick.
yeah,
What did the voice say? He
yeah,
was
the voice said that it was Jesus, but we also have to remember that Paul was a heavy prosecutor of Christians. He writes in his
exactly.
books that
Yeah,
he was a violent persecutor of
exactly.
Christians, as well as like other people saying that he was. So like, could it be the case that Paul is psychologically damaged and he goes into the desert and has what literally seems like
Yeah,
a hallucination due to dehydration,
yeah.
because
He was
he didn't
But
see,
let me
because like
respond to you real
well, like,
quick.
because like the thing is, wait, hold on, like Paul doesn't describe Jesus's features. He just sees a bright light
Mhm.
and hears a voice. That
Right.
could literally just be like that's a standard, I'm dehydrated in the desert and I'm having a hallucination, my body's like breaking down.
Did anybody else hear a voice according to?
I think in Acts it says that the two people who accompanied him, they saw a bright light but heard nothing, and that would just back up what I'm saying, right?
So
Like
so
Paul was having
listen,
a breakdown and nobody else heard the voices.
all right. So Paul would not be having a breakdown at that moment. He was highly educated. He was a scholar,
Yeah,
right?
but like
Wait. Before
yeah, but you do know that, you do know what Schmurder does to people, right? Schmurder has been shown to psychologically affect people, unless you're like a psychopath.
yeah.
So imagine Paul, who's
But-
crucifying tons of Christians and
yeah.
hearing stuff about Jesus, but he never actually shook the hands or met with Jesus. Do you think
So-
that like hearing stuff about Jesus and getting information about Christianity couldn't lead to him having a very vague hallucination of like a voice speaking to him? He could also be experiencing guilt.
No, it can actually lead to correction, because if you continue to read the scripture, you'll see that Jesus asked him why he was doing what he was doing.
Exactly.
So
That plays into my thesis. Paul persecuted Christians. He was psychologically
yeah.
unwell,
So
and he was
after
feeling guilt about persecuting
think
these
about this.
Christians. He
When
travels
we
in the desert and he doesn't see Jesus specifically. He sees a great light and
yeah.
hears things. And these things could just be things uttered by Christians he's persecuted. He was
So
very
let
violent
so
in
let me
doing that.
ask you. Let me ask you.
So
In his life after, let me ask you real quick.
Mhm.
So in his life after why did he have a drastic change after that
He's
instruction?
like I'm literally filing Paul away as like psychologically damaged.
No, I'm just saying. I'm just in my view for a second. Like, why did he have a drastic change in his life from that point on?
I can
Well,
explain
yeah,
that.
like that's normal. We see that in
That's not
cults. We
normal.
see,
That's not normal for
yeah,
a
yeah, it
psychotic.
is. It
That's
is.
not normal for a psychotic person. You
Yeah,
gave
it
him
is.
labels. No,
like
what
wait,
happens
hold
with
on. Like when it comes to cults in America, there are plenty of people who go through something traumatic and they abandon their family, they drastically change their lives, and they start believing in a religion.
yeah,
This
but
is
it don't
common. This is common for Islam. This is common for the Jonestown cult. This is common for the cult where they all wore like black Nikes. This is a very common thing for
I
people
don't
to
know about that.
drastically change their lives for due to some kind of like psychological breakdown or something traumatic happening. But Volsi, you were gonna say something?
Yeah, I was gonna say like in mental health they teach you exactly what you said, Coco. Like this is normal for stuff to happen, especially after mental health breakdowns. People dramatically shift their lives after trauma. They shift their lives, and you're actually right about the entire thing that happens when people murder others. That causes changes in their brain. Especially if they're going through a delusional state, like how you mentioned, Paul was in the desert. He was thirsty. He could have gotten a thirst delusion, and boom, saw a bright light, and
See,
all his guilt came up to him. You know
what's
what I'm saying?
happening?
Things
What's
always happen like
happening
that.
though? But what's happening is that you're placing those things there as if that's what happened. You're using a world consensus as if that's what happens. But the scripture tells there's a drastic change, and he didn't go back to doing those things. Well, we see men, right? I mean, according to the scriptures, he didn't go back to doing those things. So from that, Paul did not go back to do the same things that he was
Right.
doing.
No,
Correct?
we agree. What I'm saying is that psychological breakdowns and changes can drastically change your behavior. That always happens. Even if he like for example didn't like Paul fall off his donkey or whatever, he could have had a concussion, and that could have changed his behavior because we know that happens too.
Also,
Yeah.
after
Go ahead,
Paul
go
had this experience on the road to Damascus, I'm pretty sure he was blind. So it could just be the
He
case he was staring at the
blinded.
sun.
According to the scriptures, he was blinded by the light. So was he
Yeah.
blind before?
Yeah, so basically, so essentially, we're observing a phenomenon that's occurring, and we have two competing hypotheses. And I think there's going to be more parsimony in like a naturalistic hypothesis, which can explain the data with like less moving pieces than like the God hypothesis. Because with the God hypothesis, we would have to assume that Jesus rose from the dead. We have to assume that God exists. But with naturalism, we can throw all that. Wait, hold on. With naturalism, we can throw all of that out, and there are explanations for this kind of behavior. We see it in cults. We see it all over the place. And given the details of Paul's trip on the road to Damascus, he's not telling us any information that would show like Jesus showed up. He's telling us very vague information. He didn't see the face of Jesus. He couldn't describe the hair or how Jesus looked. If he did, then that would be a whole different situation. Like if Paul described to Matthew in perfect detail how Jesus looked and he never met Jesus, then we could be like, oh my gosh, this raises the probability he actually met Jesus on the road to Damascus. But the fact that it's just a bright light, we can literally conclude that Paul was staring at the sun, heard voices, was feeling guilty, is traumatized by murdering Christians for all these years, and there we go. We have an experience, hallucination in a desert after being thirsty.
Yeah, so that goes back to, so was that an example of his testimony? Would that be an example?
No, that's what he's saying is that like that Paul's testimony is completely different, but this is what we can extrapolate from evidence that we have of what we understand about neuroscience, what we understand about what happens when you're thirsty, what happens with delusions. Let me give you another example, right? It's natural for Paul to have heard voices because even when I'm sleepy or I'm hungry or anything like that, guess what happens? I hear voices. That doesn't mean that I'm crazy or delusional. It doesn't even mean that being delusional is necessarily a bad thing. We've all heard voices before that were not there. You see what I'm saying? Like there was one time at night where I woke up out the bed and I went to go answer the door. My wife asked me, "What the hell is you doing?" And I said, "I thought you were at the door." Because I heard her knock on the door. I heard her very much say, "Babe, open the door." I heard her say that, right? But it didn't happen. Like it was just me being like, I just had a delusion. That's a natural thing. That's healthy. That happens to you, to everyone, right? The same thing could have happened to Paul. Since we have no evidence of something supernatural actually existing outside of people just saying it does. These are things that we can extrapolate and say that maybe that was more likely more than a supernatural cause. But Josh, can you give me a second because Jovan has been patient and I want him to get into it. Go ahead, Jovan.
Yeah, what's up? I I've been listening, and I don't know if we've gotten far away from the prompt, but I haven't heard in the entire time I've been listening Josh give a good reason why we should believe in God, and it seems like we're specifically focusing on the Christian God here.
No, the
Just
reason
waiting
why
on like
is
a
because
reason.
the reason why is because he said he didn't want to hear my testimony. And I asked him about an encounter. I asked him about demoting or debunking an infinite God that desires to give him wisdom. So you
Why
can't
should
say
your testimony be a reason we should believe in God?
if listen to what you're saying. You pose a question, and then I say I'm gonna give you that, and you say you don't want it.
No.
So no,
The question
no,
was to give a good reason to believe in God. I
my
don't think
testimony. Think
I
about
don't
it.
think
My testimony. My
from a
testimony.
singular person.
Listen to me, bro. Listen to me. No,
No, hold on.
no, no.
Everybody pause,
Listen
pause,
to me.
everybody pause, everybody pause, pause,
Wait,
pause, pause, pause,
wait,
pause, pause,
wait.
pause, everybody pause. Hold on, Josh. Everybody pause, everybody pause. All right. So
Yeah.
yes, this is the point that Jovan's trying to make, Josh. I'm asking for a good reason to believe in a God. I personally don't think personal testimony is a good reason, because if I take yours, I also gotta take one for someone who's Hindu, who's Muslim, who's Haitian voodoo, like my grandmother was. Those would be good reasons for them, right? So that's what Jovan is trying to say. Like, why would your testimony be a good reason, and more than that, better than all the other religion claims out there? Is that right, Jovan?
Yeah, like singular anecdotal evidence is not going to be a good enough reason for me to believe in the supernatural, right?
Okay, so yeah, so that's not a good enough reason, but it doesn't discredit somebody's response to that question. You don't have a dialogue if you dictate how I respond to the question. That's not a dialogue. That's just control. You
I
know,
do just want to say, Josh, it is if the question is give a good reason, and you've admitted that it wouldn't be a good reason.
No, I
Then
did admit that my own good check me out, Jay. I didn't admit that my testimony is not a good reason. It's my good reason. So I was trying to share that, and he said he didn't want to hear it. So the question, our dialogue shifted somewhere else. It shifted somewhere else. So it's not that I was getting away from it, but that's my good reason. Matter of fact, I believe our conversation would have stopped when I said that he said he didn't want to hear my testimony. It went somewhere else. So right now, you just trying to, I mean, respectfully, you're just trying to have an argumental conversation or debate, and
okay.
that's
Let's
empty. So
let
I don't want to
let's
do that.
let's do this. Let's do
I don't want to do that.
Let's do this. All right. So,
Yeah. So,
Josh,
come on.
go ahead and give your testimony, and Jovan, you tell us if that convinced you. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah. So thank you. I appreciate that.
No problem.
Yeah. So I thought the same way you thought, brother.
Mhm.
I had many encounters. I actually thought about doing things to myself. You know, I had very very tough situations that happened in my life. And I remember when my daughter had to go to the doctor or so. The doctor had told me that my daughter was gonna have a heart murmur or so, or had a heart murmur. And I didn't know exactly what to do. I waited like 2 months. For this response, because I didn't want to have to deal with having to put my daughter through issues. She's a gymnast, and I didn't want to have to put her through all the different tests having a heart murmur.
Mhm.
So I waited 2 months. I talked to God. I reached out to God, and I was like, Lord, why is this happening to me? I've been serving you, and why is this happening? I pushed it back, and finally I went to the doctor, and they started doing the test. I prayed. I talked to God. After these people had already told me that she had a heart murmur, I prayed, talked to God, and this doctor said, hey, man, the heart murmur is gone. Okay? My daughter was crying on this, thing, thinking that she wasn't going to be able to have the gymnastic thing anymore. She'll never flip again. And they told me, they said, hey, she don't have it. You're good, man. That's one testimony that changed my life. I had many questions and many answers, just like you guys are having right now. I had these deep conversations, studied and all that. I went to church and I did the same thing you did, brother. I sat in many rooms, many churches, and asked the questions, and many people didn't give it to me until I had my own encounter. All right, my own encounter. I mean, I see the comments and things like that, but it's different when you have your child and something like that happens to your child. So
Cool. So here's two things that I want to say, right? Number one, I'm happy that your child is safe and healthy. I'm happy about that. I think everyone agrees with that. Number two, what would you say to people who did the same thing, who went through the same something similar that you did? Because I have. I went through something similar, and no amount of praying helped my child survive. Was my child not good enough for your God?
No, sir. No, that's what my situation will be definitely different than your situation. Okay.
So when there are people out there, this is why I would say, actually I kind of took over Jovan's reaction, but the reason this is one of the reasons why I don't say that. Sometimes I would say that personal testimony can be kind of insulting, because it says that you were good enough for God to bless you, but other people who have been through similar things or even worse things, they didn't get that blessing. So were we not good enough for God to bless us in the same way?
Yes, you were.
So
yes,
why
you
didn't it
were.
happen for us?
And God, and the clause is you're saying what if, right? You're saying what if.
No.
This
Well, my
situation.
question is, if we've been through the exact same thing or something similar that you've been through, sometimes even worse,
Yes.
and the outcome was the opposite, why didn't we receive the same blessing you received to believe?
God knows the plan for that situation, brother. And I'm sure you know about this, right? So since you
Okay,
had
so
wait,
God's
wait, hold up, wait, wait.
God's plan was for my aunts to die horribly of brain cancer, for my best friend to die at 19 years old from a car accident, for
Yeah,
one of my friends in high school to get shot at 15 and die,
I've been
for
through that.
me to be traumatized by all these events.
I've been
These
through
were
that.
and me not even believing anymore.
Yeah,
That
I've
was
been
God's
through that.
plan.
Listen, I'm just going to respond to you. I've been through that. I had a granddad who passed away. I had an auntie who passed away from cancer. I've been through those things, and I've had that question, and I had to go to God to find out why these things happen. My other daughter, right? My other daughter. They said that my other daughter would be a vegetable. She would never hit her milestones. She would never do these things. They had to put her.
Josh,
No,
that is
no,
great for you. I
no.
get no.
No.
I'm very happy. That is great
I
for
understand
you.
that, but what I'm saying is,
That is great
what
for
I'm
you.
no, it's no
What
makeup
about?
here.
Hold on, listen. That is great for you. That's wonderful for you.
Yeah.
I'm happy that your daughters are healthy. I
Mhm.
really am,
Mhm.
genuinely. I don't want anybody to go through something horrible. I'm genuinely happy that your daughters are safe and healthy, and you're giving them a good life. I'm sure you are an amazing father. Truly, I believe that. What I'm saying is that what about everyone else? Because if it didn't happen for us, is that a good reason for us not to believe?
No, that's not a good reason for you to
Why
not to
not?
believe.
If it was good for
Because
you to believe because you got a positive outcome, why is it not good for us to not believe because we had a negative outcome?
check this out. I haven't always had positive outcomes. This is what I'm telling you about real life situations. There hasn't been all the time that I had positive outcomes. I've had negative outcomes as well.
All right.
And
So
still
what's
question.
the reason to so your testimony doesn't give us a good reason to believe, does it?
So check this out. Have you ever been to the gym and worked out and had a negative outcome from working out? Do you stop working out?
No, of course not.
Okay, so you continue to work out until you get the results, right?
Yeah, but these are not the
Look,
same thing.
I'm just giving you an example. You continue to work those things out with the positive outcomes and negative outcomes.
These
Right
aren't
now, okay, so
these aren't
you make
analogous,
that.
bro.
No, it is. It
This is
is,
so
brother.
so incoherent.
All right. Yeah, Jovan, go ahead. My bad. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just Josh said this would be good reason to believe in God, but all it is telling me is that Josh doesn't understand that like heart murmurs in children and teens tend to go away. It's kind of like a really common thing. Most heart
But
murmurs
you
that
don't.
appear in
Yeah.
children and
See,
teens
this
go
is what I was telling
away.
you about the discredit thing, right? This is what I was telling you earlier about the discredit thing,
Yes,
right?
the whole point of this is to we well, of course we're discrediting it. What?
Okay, so this is what I'm showing.
I'm not
Look,
just going to sit here and hear you go, God did this and just believe you
no, you're not just gonna believe me, brother. No,
without
you're
some
not just gonna
shred of
believe
actual
me.
evidence. And so
No,
far,
you're not just gonna
what
believe me,
Josh,
brother.
what do you think
Listen,
you're up here doing?
look, you're not
So,
just gonna believe me,
tap me in
brother.
whenever.
What you're gonna do is search out yourself. You're not just gonna believe me.
What?
You're gonna no. Listen, brother. You search it out yourself.
I did. I searched out the
I
self,
did.
and what
Okay,
happened
yeah.
is I actually experienced a moment where one of my loved ones was dying, and the Lord Buddha saved them. So why shouldn't I believe in Buddha?
Yeah, see that. You see, this is what I'm saying. I don't know anything about the Buddha thing, and I don't even know if you gassing right here. But what I'm saying is this, bro. And my situation can't change you. You seek out that understanding
All
So
right.
then you
instead.
So
don't have a good reason for
No,
me to
but
believe in
I've
your
given you.
God.
Listen to me. I've given you my reason, okay? But you have to make the decision instead of debunking.
You're
And
just Josh. You're just preaching. That's all
no,
you're doing.
brother, listen to
All
me.
you came
Listen
up
to
here
me.
to
Josh,
do was
I would
preach.
rather
Josh,
listen
You're
to
Josh.
just
me.
preaching.
Hold on,
I have
Josh,
given
Josh,
you.
Josh, 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 Josh.
Yeah,
So
see.
you said that
Yeah.
you gave your reason, but the question up here said, "Can you give me a good reason
I have
to believe in
given
you?"
you. I have given you that.
your No, you have a reason to believe, but
I have
just because
given you.
hold
Think
on,
about the question,
you
brother.
have a listen. I'm
Yeah.
giving it to you that you have a reason to believe because when
Mm-hmm.
you prayed, these are the things that happened. So
Yeah.
you have a good reason to believe. What I'm saying is that when I prayed and got the opposite outcome, that gave me not a good reason to believe, right?
No, because you still
Sure it
brother.
did. Sure it did.
No, it don't. No, it don't, brother. Because you still have to
How
make.
not?
Because
How not? Because you
I'm gonna
just
explain
said,
it.
hold on,
Because
wait. You just said that this testimony, this things happen, that gave me a good reason to believe. So my testimony, when these things happen, does that mean I shouldn't believe?
no, because I said earlier, I said I have experienced negative outcomes as well. So
And
even in
I've
my
also hold on.
I
You
have
realize that when I've prayed before and experienced positive outcomes, right? Doesn't that
exactly.
mean that prayer is a coin flip?
No, prayer is not. No, bro, it's not just a coin flip.
Will
Okay,
you get
I,
everything that you pray for? No, right?
and some yes, and I may not get everything right. God knows exactly what I
It's
need.
a
I may
coin
not get,
flip.
but
How does God decide which of my loved ones to kill and which of my loved ones to
yeah,
spare?
yeah. Brother Joe, you're being condescending, bro. I would
No,
rather.
he's really not. That's a good question.
No.
That's actually a good question.
Because think
You think
no.
a genuine question trying to
Oh,
boil
you
down the
okay? So that
logic
was
of your
genuine. Okay,
worldview
so
is
listen,
then like
listen.
that's embarrassing.
Okay,
That was
so look,
condescending. What I just said was condescending.
listen
That
to
was
me.
embarrassing.
So if that's the case, you seek answers fully, brother. You seek answers fully. I had to seek those answers fully because
Is
all my
uh,
outcomes, everything that I have experienced, it haven't always been yes. I haven't
are we
always
just
got
Hold on,
those.
Josh,
are we
Hold
doing
on.
incoherence?
Josh, I don't think you actually, I don't think you actually heard Jovan's question. Jovan, can you ask that one more time, please? What you said about God's decisions.
Yeah, how does God determine which of my family members to heal and which of my family members to kill?
As I said, God has established everything, brother. He has a
That's
plan for.
explaining. He's an
He has.
important God's plan.
He
So
has a. Listen.
yeah, so
Okay.
how
Are
do I
you?
discern which people he's killing in his plan? Like, how do I discern his plan for why he kills my grandmother or
Okay.
my sister
This is
or
what you
my
do.
uncle? How do I
Yeah.
discern why he kills those people?
Okay. Yeah. So, that's a strong word, but here it is. What you do
It's all
is,
part of his
but
plan. Like, how else
okay,
would it be?
before you debunk in your lifetime, ask the questions and seek understanding fully. I read earlier a
I'm
scripture that
asking you
said,
a question.
Christ
no,
Almighty.
no, you asking me. I'm saying ask God the question, brother. You asking me, and I
Okay,
gave you every. Hold up, brother.
God
Hold
hasn't
up,
told
hold
me.
up.
He
Let
hasn't
me
answered me.
just let me just
So
finish.
then
Let
you
me let
answer
me
it.
let me just finish.
Actually,
Okay.
actually, I
No,
had a
because you're
question
just
before you.
preaching.
Yeah.
Finish.
Before you finish, Josh, I had a question because one of my YouTube comments actually brought this up, and this is a very good point.
Okay.
Why do we need to pray? Like, because if the plan is perfect, why do I need to request a change in the plan?
Okay. So check this out. When you go to college, do you ask instructors questions and they already know the answers?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you go to school, do you debunk your instructor the first day?
Sometimes if they got something wrong, yeah,
Okay. But are they qualified to be in that college?
of course they are.
Okay. So are you demoting God and his qualifications right now?
Yeah, because
Questioning
he's
whether he's
Okay.
because
So
he's a
okay.
he's a he's a
So
pretty shitty leader, bro.
okay. So that's your response. So many students have done this in school, and they have did it the first 4, 5, 6 weeks or so in school until eventually they start getting understanding. I have even seen where students have went back to their instructors and said, "Hey man, the first couple weeks, man, hey, I debunked you, but now I understand. I
No, no,
see
no, no,
why
no.
you was saying."
We're talking about two different things. When this, I don't think you understand what debunking means. What debunking means is that we actually show something to be wrong, right? We've like there have been college students that have gone to college and spoken to professors and be like, "Hey, professor, you got this wrong, like
All
absolutely
right,
incorrect," and the professor had to
I
redo their
understand.
entire syllabus. So
All
that's
right,
what debunking means. It doesn't mean that we disagree on something and then I came to an
right.
agreement to understand their perspective. It means that
So you,
yeah, this is
mhm.
wrong, like
All right.
100%.
So check this
So when
out.
it
So
comes
check
to
this out. You
when
remember
it,
earlier you
I got
said,
hold on, I got you. So
okay, okay.
when it comes to God's decisions and his leadership and et cetera, if God already has a perfect plan set out for us, no amount of prayer that we're going to do is going to change anything, right? Or why do we need to pray? Because he already has a plan. It's already set out for us. We can't do anything different.
I have a way more important question.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So
Because
I
Josh is a
explained that
Christian,
earlier.
right? Wait,
Go
Josh, I'm
ahead.
sorry. This is way more important. If God's plan is so perfect, why did he regret making humans and have to flood the earth and start over?
Great question. All right.
It's kind
So
of
great
weird if he's
question.
got a perfect
That's
plan.
that's a great question. All right. So first of all, in my view of the scriptures, God gave instructions and plans to follow, which rules we follow right now. Someone deviated from those instructions. There is a
Who?
result to deviate. There is a result from deviate
Who?
right now. If you do something on TT right now and you
Who
break
deviated?
rules here, is there a consequence for that?
Josh, who
Yes.
deviated?
Who deviated?
You or whoever that did the thing.
I
Who?
deviate.
Okay,
I don't know these
okay,
motherfuckers
so
who
yeah,
deviated. I don't,
okay, so
So
all
God
right, so
won't
yeah,
tell
all right,
us the
great.
plan.
So here we
God
go.
won't
Here
tell
we
us the plan, but if we deviate from this plan that we've not been told, he'll kill all of us.
no. We gotta no. We wait.
Okay, that
No,
makes
bro,
sense.
don't do that,
all
bro.
right, all right.
All right, so
Hold on.
here.
Everybody pause. I'm sorry. Everybody pause. All right. So, Josh, we've been here, I think, close to 45 minutes, almost
I like this
an
though.
hour now. All right. So I'm not gonna move on real quick, but we do have someone else on the stage, and I want to go ahead and get them into the conversation. So, stay with me. All right. So just give
Okay.
me a moment. We may circle back because we've been here for like an hour. All right. So just let me get to the next person real quick.
Yes, sir,
Q,
bro.
Q, are you there?
Yeah, what's up, guys? Can you hear me pretty clearly?
Yeah, I can hear you, Q. All right, Q. Are you at least 18? And do you think you give me a good reason to believe in a God?
Yeah, I'm 18. Yeah, I definitely wanted to go ahead and give you guys an answer on that question as best as I could.
All right, sure. We have Coco on the stage. We have Jovan on the stage, and you have
What's up,
backup
guys?
from Josh. So, Q, what do you think is a good reason to believe in a God?
Yeah, your name is Vol. Is it you said Volsi?
Volsi, that's correct. Well, you got that right. A lot of people get that wrong, but yeah, that's Volsi.
Nice name, pretty cool name.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I usually whenever I talk to I guess I have got a lot of atheist friends, Muslims I talk to. I usually start with like 5 quick points. I'll go over the points. If you want, you can stop me at each point, or I can just flow through it real quick. Um, but I usually start with, obviously, theists, we believe the universe has a cause. and we believe God is the best explanation. We start with cosmological argument that everything that begins to exist has a cause, and we believe the universe, obviously with the Big Bang, began to exist. So therefore, we believe the universe has a cause, a reason to exist.
All
My
right, sure.
second point.
Let's go ahead and start with that. All right, so yeah, the let's say that the universe did had some sort of finite or finite beginning, right? We're not sure about that, but let's say that that it did for argument's sake. Why does that need to be some sort of supernatural agent and not a natural process of reality that we simply don't understand yet?
Yeah. Well, I think just based off, I know atheism pretty much, to me, it says everything comes from nothing or by
Wrong.
nothing for no reason.
That's wrong.
All right, I just finished my statement. But to
Wait,
me,
hold on. You said I can interrupt
Yeah.
when you say something wrong. Yeah, that's wrong. That's not what atheism said. Atheism is simply lack of belief in a God. The same way that you don't believe in Santa Claus is the same way I don't believe in a God. It has nothing to do with the beginnings of the universe, how life began, none of that.
Gotcha. Yeah, well, I would say, well, to me, the lack of belief. If atheism is only a lack of belief, then I would say things like, just think of something random like a rock, or let's say a baby, or maybe an unconscious person would technically be atheists, but nobody treats them as having a worldview. If atheism simply means lacking belief, then to me, it's not a position. It's just a description of like, I mean, I don't
Correct.
mean to be rude, like mental absence.
Yeah,
To
atheism is
me,
a position.
yeah, to me, a worldview requires like a positive like claim or just a truth claim, and not just the lack of
Atheism
one.
isn't a world. Atheism isn't a worldview.
Yeah, but what is your like
It's the
claim?
lack
What
of a
is your
worldview.
truth claim?
Yeah, so
Claim
I
about
can
what?
explain really quick. But yeah, basically like I refer to the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, and like in a philosophical sense, atheism is going to be like you're saying like God doesn't exist. In a psychological sense, or the more colloquial usage, it's like a lack of belief. Now, that's all that's really saying. Just like Volsi said, it just means like a lack of belief in God.
Hmm.
Atheists can hold to like several different like worldviews, which are going to be composed of like so many different things regarding morality or like the beginning of the universe. A few examples could be like they could make the same move that the Christian is making and just like hold to like a eternal universe, a universe that just existed eternally. Or some atheists hold to like an infinite regress, and there's like an explanation behind that. Nothing about solely being atheist implies that you believe like something was created out of nothing and we're breaking the laws of thermodynamics at this point, just creating matter out of nothing. Typically that's like a Ray Comfort talking point, and Ray Comfort's a really bad Christian apologist, so
Yeah, I don't really know who that is. Yeah, I definitely understand. Trust me, I definitely understand where you're coming from. But and of course, most atheists don't. If you, I feel like if you say I simply just lack belief, that's fine. But if you claim God doesn't exist or that there's only nature or whatever, now you're making a worldview claim.
No, it's not that we're making a claim. We're countering it.
But usually atheists say things like there's no evidence for God. God probably
Yes, because people
doesn't
are telling us
exist.
there is evidence for God,
Yeah,
right?
you
If
got
there
you
was
say you
no
got say
religion, if there were no religion and nobody on this earth was claiming there was a God, nobody would be saying there's no God. The only reason we say it is as a counter to a pre-existing claim, which is that
yes,
there
but
is a God and a God does exist.
those are definitely assertions. There's not absence of belief.
They're counter
Once you make a
assertions.
claim about reality, you have entered philosophy.
They're counter claims.
I mean,
But it's
This
still
is
a claim.
It's a counter.
lack-
Like, right, you're
lack of
claiming that a
belief.
God exists. We're claiming there's no evidence for this.
So are you claiming that God exists? You just don't have access to the evidence?
No, we're saying
No.
that there's no evidence to what you're saying.
There's no evidence.
Okay. So yeah, so you remember earlier you said something about um I can't remember exactly the statement that you made, but you was talking about um what is natural. It was I
I
can't
was
think of
saying that everything that we understand about our universe, our world, has always had a natural explanation. Everything from gravity to plate tectonics to the rain to thunder, all of it has always had a natural explanation. The supernatural has never been the explanation for anything that we know about our universe. Even consciousness has natural explanations, right? Nothing has ever been explained by ghosts, spirits, gods, none of that. So why would existence in of itself need a supernatural explanation and not a natural explanation that we simply do not understand yet?
Yeah,
is
but
the natural
do you
go ahead,
see
go ahead, go ahead.
how it's still a positive claim about the universe when you say there is no evidence for God? That's still a positive claim about the entire universe. And you saying in all reality, throughout space, throughout all history, throughout all philosophy, throughout all testimonies, throughout all metaphysics, there's zero evidence of a divine mind. That's a
Correct.
pretty enormous claim requiring enormous justification.
Correct, because
They
no, because every time we've asked for it, we've come up empty. The only thing that we've ever I don't think God believes I have ever given us is basically rhetorical arguments. Rhetorical arguments are not evidence.
So like,
We didn't even look here. Hugh just gave the God of the Gaps argument, and like
wait,
in order.
so
I haven't really got into my I have 5 points. I got into 1 point, and we're debating on the 1 point. But I mean, I can continue to go through my points about.
Yeah, let's go to the second one. What's the second one?
Yeah,
go for it.
yeah. We go to the second one. I believe also about the historical. I believe we also see the historical evidence for Jesus. We have the eyewitness testimony of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and the early letters like Paul. They all report Jesus' life, his death, and resurrection. Um, we have Paul's letters, which were written 20 to 30 years of Jesus' death. I think that's early enough for
All right, cool. Pause.
eyewitness verification.
Cool, got you. Pause.
Um,
Oh, hold on, cool. Got you. Pause. All right. I know Coco loves this one, and I think I've seen Jovan discuss this as well. Coco's gonna love this one. Go ahead, Coco, and Jovan will go next.
So if I do a Google, if I do a Google search, Matthew and John are considered eyewitness testimonies, but Mark and Luke are traditionally understood to have relied on eyewitness testimonies, so they're hearing from other people. But even if I grant that like they're eyewitness testimonies, I mean like the books are dated, right? We don't have original copies, and like none of them signed their names on the Gospels. The earliest Gospel you're gonna get is Mark, and Mark was 30 years after Jesus died, right? So basically, like these people saw something happen, and they didn't write anything down for 30 years, and they spread it around via oral tradition. And like I would have to trust that these people are really good at their job to like trust that oral tradition like kept all the details in sync, and we didn't get like miraculous tales about Jesus in that process. Otherwise it's just a game of telephone. And I mean, like if you sit in a room with like 10 grown adults in their 40s and play a game of telephone, in about like 2 hours a message can change drastically from what it originally was. So imagine if they're doing that for like 30 years, and that's your earliest gospel. It's Mark is dated 30 years, and then like it just gets worse throughout the other gospels. I think Matthew's like 40, and then you start going into like decades later. I mean, like the earliest thing you'll possibly get is maybe the Corinthians Creed, but I mean there's only a few people that think it's within 2 to 5 years, or like there are some people who think it's like months, but I'd have to look into that more. I don't really see the reason to trust the Gospels. They weren't signs; they're dated, and
They
yeah.
also have like so many contradictions between the four of them, especially John, because John's not one of the synoptic gospels. So I discount John almost entirely.
Yeah, we like there are contradictions on like for example the women who saw Jesus. I think one gospel says it happened at twilight. The other gospel says it happened in the morning. One said that it happened at night. One said Mary was by herself. The other says Mary was with 2 other women. The other says Mary was with 5 women. One says that there were 2 guards. One says 1 guard. One says an angel on a rock. One says the guard was inside. Like these are all wildly different pieces of information that completely contradict each other. It can't be, one angel on a rock, 2 guards outside, and then 1 angel inside, and then it happened at twilight and at night, and with 1 woman and with 5 women. Those are completely different details. So these are like huge amounts of discrepancy in between them. And if you were to present this in a court, they would completely throw it out. You feel me?
Is it denying the essence of it though?
When you say, actually, someone else go ahead and get that. Go ahead.
I would say, well, I mean, you guys bring up a lot of points. Now, I love your points. It's honestly, it's hard just to stay on one point. But I would say definitely speaking about the oral church tradition. He said the game of telephone. I feel like the game of telephone idea just assumes that these people had weak memory and sloppy transmission, which isn't how ancient Jewish culture worked. And Jewish culture was built for oral accuracy, especially in the first century Judaism. Their memorization was sacred. Teachers like rabbis, they trained disciples to repeat teachings verbatim, and scripture itself, even the Torah, was passed down orally for centuries before it was written, and people weren't casually remembering stories. They were like rigorously trained. So I feel like oral transmission was highly reliable, not just random rumor. Even like I said, the rabbi scholars could recite entire sections of the Torah from memory if they could do that. Passing down stories about Jesus is far less telephone and more like, just being, honest. And the 30-year gap, I don't feel like it's not a weak point. Paul's letters were written within 20 to 30 years of Jesus' death, and they reference eyewitnesses like Peter and James. You go back to Corinthians. Mark may have been written based on Peter's eyewitness testimony, but it's not collective. It's not just collective hearsay.
Wait, whenever you say Peter and James, eyewitnesses to what? The resurrection?
Yeah, that's what Paul's letters.
I'm not even sure if they were witnesses to the resurrection. They might have been witnesses to Jesus's life, maybe, but like I'm not even sure there were any witnesses to the resurrection. But also like the reason I was mentioning like telephone is like that's human nature. I mean, like we'd have to believe that these people are like supernatural. Like it's just a tendency for like humans to like forget things and to mess things up and forget details. Even like someone said earlier something about court. It's a tendency for eyewitnesses to be faulty. People will say that they see one thing and then like they say another in court. Like somebody might say like this person robbed me, and then like they get to court and like it's like a mixed story. So like courts started denying eyewitnesses at a certain time. And in order for me to like trust these this oral tradition, I'd have to trust that for 30 years people were spreading things by mouth and they didn't change one detail about the resurrection of God or his like the entire gospel wasn't written till 30 years later. So these people had to memorize Jesus's entire life and the details of his resurrection and not write that down for 30 years. And I have to trust that they didn't change a single detail and got it 100% accurate when they wrote it down.
Think about
the early the early disciples had enormous incentives to tell the truth. They risked torture, persecution, and death for preaching the resurrection. If they were lying about Jesus,
there are people right now who suicide, like boom themselves because they believe they're gonna go somewhere with like 72 virgins. Like somebody having a strong belief,
people
being
don't
willing to
die
die for that
what they-
belief.
People don't die for what they know is a lie. If they were lying,
Somebody being willing to die for their beliefs is not evidence of those beliefs being true.
I know, God. I let you talk. I just want to finish my statement.
Wait,
That's
hold
all.
on.
Just call me out whenever I'm wrong, definitely. But let me finish my statement. I got you.
Well, hold on,
I got
bro.
you.
Okay, before you continue, right? Like,
But
the key
but
thing
if
to
they were
point out-
lying about Jesus
hold on.
rising,
Hold on, everybody pause. Okay, because it's getting jumbled. All right, so Q, you said that people don't die for something they believe that's a lie. That is true, but what Jovan countered is that people die for things that they believe in all the time. That doesn't make the belief itself actually true. All right, so that's where we are right now. Coco, what you was gonna say?
Yeah, so I was gonna say like like whenever I argue about the resurrection, I'll grant that these people believed in what they saw, right?
Same.
But so yeah, like people went unalive for like a lie, right? But people unalive for things that are not true all the time. Like Jovan said, literally people strap schmoms to their chest, get on, you know, Delta Airlines, and next thing you know, we're looking at the sky and see like a giant explosion going off, right? In the name of like Islam and like 32 virgins. Literally, when it comes to Jonestown, you had a mass group of people drink Kool-Aid mixed with cyanide, thinking that they were going to literally go to heaven from poisoning themselves. And they swear that like the guy who was running Jonestown was doing miracles. There are actually like testimonies of like he was a prophet, he was doing miracles. I think it's Heaven's Gate. Heaven's Gate is this cult where they were wearing they were wearing like Nike black shoes. And all of them committed like self-unalivement, thinking that they were going to go to heaven, and they were really convinced that like the leader was a prophet and like they were going to go to heaven. So it's literally just a tendency amongst cults for people to be like, yeah, I'm going to take my life for this cause, only for it to like not be true later.
Yeah.
So
You know what's even crazier about Heaven's Gate? They also castrated themselves. You know what I mean? Like the men removed their genitals and the women sewed it up and, you know, got their fallopian tubes like completely cut off. They castrated themselves for this. You see what I'm saying? So, and they all believe that Halley's Comet is going to take them in a spaceship to another planet where gender doesn't exist anymore. So they're not going to need those things anyway. You see what I'm saying? So like, if we're going to say that people, you know, doing extreme things for their belief, yeah, they are, because they truly believe it. But it doesn't necessarily make the belief true, right? Because Halley's Comet is not a spaceship.
I understand. Yeah, I understand that. But this goes back to the fruit of that person. Now, I just want to say this: I do not hold to the Islamic belief at all. In regards to the 72 virgins, that's not the proper fulfillment that we have as Christians. So no, we don't hold to that. But we do hold to what our church fathers has given us in regards to heaven and earth. Now, that's what we hold to. And I just wanted to say that before we get off into the Islamic thing, 'cause I didn't want to go off into that.
Yeah, gotcha. All right. Before we, my bad, Joe, go ahead.
I just want to say, it's not that we're just using that as an example, right? Like Joseph Smith died for his Mormon beliefs, right? Like we can easily use that. And here's somebody who existed at a time where have been multiple people who have attested that he told them the truth under oath in a court of law, have said that Joseph Smith showed me the golden plates. I've seen them. Like, why shouldn't we believe his version of Christianity as him being a new prophet if he's got this evidence that he should be believed?
Exactly.
Yeah, we don't. Neither do we hold to Joseph Smith as well. We identified that, and we tested fruit of Joseph Smith. That's what I'm saying. That argument don't work with us as Christians because
so Josh, yeah. I mean, Josh, I'm sorry. I don't think you're like try to connect with what Jovan is saying. He's saying that people, you know, die for their beliefs all the time. You know what I mean? It doesn't make the belief in of itself true. Like, and Joseph Smith was like an example of that. People said that Joseph Smith performed miracles, et cetera, and he died as well. And there are people who actually went to war with the United States government over this belief in itself, but you don't hold to Mormonism just because those people died for it, right? So, like, if them dying for their belief isn't good enough for you to believe them, why are the people who died 2,000 years ago good enough for me to believe you?
Right. So I sourced the one.
I'll try to wait a little bit. But to me, it's like this. It's a big difference between dying for what you think is true and dying for what you know you saw. The early Christians had zero incentive to lie. Unlike some modern groups, the early disciples, they were poor, uneducated, and they were under the brutal Roman occupation. And for them to claim Jesus rose from the dead, it wasn't just I would say unpopular, it was dangerous. And if it were a lie, if they were lying, this here. If they were lying about that, they had no reward. Where was their reward to lie?
Right,
Their only
right. So,
reward
so,
was
so Q,
persecution,
so Q, like
torture,
try
and
to
death.
Q, try to understand what I'm saying. We're not saying that these people just lied. We do agree that yeah, they really did believe it, but that doesn't mean that the belief itself is true. Again, we don't think that the people in Heaven's Gate or Jonestown were just flat out lying, right? They really did believe this. That doesn't mean that Jim Jones was a prophet. Doesn't mean that Haley's comet was a spaceship. That's what we're saying. Like they can really do believe this, be honestly, discerningly believing it, and still be wrong.
Yeah, but
That's what we're trying
I'm
to
not
say.
saying I'm not going off of belief. I'm saying they died for what they claimed they saw, not over what they
Right.
believed.
And we're saying
It's
that they were
different.
probably
They
wrong.
didn't die for saying yo I
Right, right.
believe this, I
So
believe
so
this.
Q.
They died for something they saw.
Q. What we're saying is that yes, they did believe they saw something, and they were wrong probably.
Well, yeah, and also like this is missing the point, right? We already granted like in Jonestown, we literally have people writing that they saw this man do miracles, and they drank like Kool-Aid cyanide because of it. So like you have cults where they see things as well. So I don't really see like the symmetry breaker. Like you're saying, like they don't unalive for things that they know. They unalive for things that they saw. Yeah, people saw tons of things. Like people have visions of like Muhammad. People have visions of like
Bigfoot.
different people. People see miracles like all the time. I mean, like we got Nigerian pastors right now making a living off of scamming people into thinking that they're actually doing magic. Like,
But these guys claim, but you guys are they're
Can
claimed
y'all
public.
pause for me real quick? Can y'all pause for me real quick? I'm sorry. I just want to take a quick commercial break because I've hit a milestone today. Today is the first time I ever hit 50K likes on my stream, and I appreciate that everybody. I appreciate that. I appreciate y'all being here. That's likely because of Coco and Jovan, because they have way more followers than me. So that means their followers are seeing me are seeing them on a live. So they're coming up to like the page. So if y'all are fans of Coco, you fans of Jovan, please like this up. Please follow me. I appreciate y'all for the 51K likes. We're at 51K right now. I appreciate y'all. We're gonna keep aiming to get to that 100K. I appreciate y'all. You guys are goated. Love you all. Just for a quick commercial break, Coco, I am still doing the Black Atheist, Agnostic, and Skeptics and Humanist Cookout. All right, still doing that next year on Friday in June. Jovan, you also invited. All right, Black Atheist, Skeptics, and Humanist Cookout. The Bash Cookout going out down next year in June. If you are a Black Atheist, Skeptic, or Humanist, go ahead and come on out. Even if you're a spiritualist, you know what I mean. If you do hoodoo or voodoo or whatever. We are going to have some hoodoo people out there as well. They're going to come out, have a good time. It's going down in Central Florida because that's where I live. I know some of y'all are not near Central Florida, but you know, go. Yo.
You in Central Florida?
Yeah, bro, I'm in Central Florida.
No, I'm in Central Florida.
Yeah? Yo. Hey, we got to have a, okay, so without giving out my location necessarily, I'm around Altamont Springs. You know where that is?
Yeah, I'll say I'm around like I'm like I can get to Disney in like 30 minutes. That's how I like to tell people.
Yo, I can get to Disney in 30 minutes. Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, yo, we're in the same area. That is dope, bro. That is dope. I didn't even know. All right, cool. So we definitely gonna do that, man. I'll inbox you all that information. All right. So we definitely gonna do the Black Atheist, Skeptics, and Humanists Cookout next year, going down in Central Florida. If you cannot make it down, I do have a plan for 2027 and 2028. We'll do more of those. So guys, come on through. It is gonna be a cookout. I have Black Atheist Rants coming as well. If you follow him on YouTube, he also raps. Him, Black Atheist Rants, and The Only Poet are gonna be performing some of their albums. All of that as well. So yeah, it's a small world, Trill. It's a very small world. So I can't wait to see everybody. If y'all can make it out, please come make it out. We're at 52K likes right now, and I appreciate that. You guys are amazing. Love you all. Let's go ahead and keep the conversation going. I did interrupt. Q, were you moving on to point 3, or you had something else to say? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I kind of forgot. I think I was mentioning. What's his name? Jovan?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I was still mentioning about his point. But my main thing, I was saying that I think you guys are thinking that I'm saying that they're claiming a belief. I think this happened when I'm saying that's a lot more different than claiming an event happened with witnesses, with historical documents to back it up, and there's skeptics acknowledging it. I feel like is the difference here. I feel like the eyewitnesses and the early documentation about Jesus' life, his miracles, the crucifixion. Um, I feel like that's all in the contemporaries' testimonies.
Okay, gotcha.
Everyone saw him killed.
Yeah. So okay, gotcha.
Miracles.
So when it comes to that, right? I don't think anyone has an issue with Jesus existing as a person. I've said that multiple times already. I don't have an issue with that existing as a person. The contention is whether or not he, flew to the sky like Superman, like what it says I think in Matthew or John. One of them said that he ascended to the sky, the ascension. That's really the contention there. Did he have actual wizardry superpowers? All right. So that's the contention. So when you say that, there are, people like eyewitnesses to this as well, right? Like we said, these things weren't written down until 30 years afterwards. And you brought up the point of these people lived in a rigorous culture where you had to make sure that you got the story right. Yeah, because they took oral tradition very, very seriously. That is true. That still does not take away the fact of human error, human mistakes. That's always going to happen. If you want me to give you an example, right? Let's say me and you are speaking. You see me wearing a black shirt. So you're going to go to someone and you say, Volsi was on stream wearing a black shirt. You're going to say that to somebody else. Somebody else will say, Volsi was on stream and he had a black shirt, right? Like you see how me wearing a black shirt and I had a black shirt can be the same thing, but they can mean different things for different people. Because me wearing a black shirt and me having one can be two different things, or they can be the same thing. Then a fourth person would say, Volsi was on stream, and because the first person said, because he heard so long, Volsi had a black shirt, that fifth or sixth or seventh person may say that I was shirtless and I was waving my shirt in the air. You feel me? Because of that first person who changed it and said I had a black shirt instead of I was wearing a black shirt. You see what I'm saying? This is the things that can happen over time in oral tradition. That doesn't mean that the story isn't still rigorous. They're still making sure that you have it right. But those little tweaks, those little changes, that's how we can get all the way up to, Jesus was talking to a blind man to Jesus healed the blind man. That's how those changes could happen. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but the Jesus talking to a blind man and healing the blind man is the result. So it's not denying the evidence of it's happening. It's just a perspective in which
We don't have any evidence that Jesus healed anybody. All we have is somebody saying that they saw it happen. That's not
I
evidence.
think, look, if we have,
let me speak real quick. Yeah, so it's not denying the evidence of it, right? So if I seen you with the black shirt, someone else said you had one on, someone else said you went shirtless, right? You take all that and you find out if it's true. You search all those things. So that when you said that, I was thinking about the great Isaiah Bible, which is preserved, right? The scroll that was preserved. And it's the same as we have right now today. So that's what I'm saying. We have the evidence. We have those manuscripts, and we're not denying those evidence. When we found the Dead Sea Scrolls in the Qumran cave, right? When we found those things outside of the book of Esther, right? We those things are still preserved now.
Right. So what we're saying, Josh,
I feel like Josh kind of went off the point, but
Jovan, I don't go out. Jovan,
right. Everybody pause. Everybody pause. I'm sorry because I actually interrupted Jovan because he was gonna say something. But what I was going to say was that we accept that those manuscripts exist, right? Josh, and we even accept that they can show that there was this person who was going around being a very popular preacher. We could accept that. But what we cannot accept or what we cannot verify is the supernatural claims. Someone simply saying that this guy resurrected and ascended into the sky like Superman. How do we actually verify that actually happened? Because I can say the same thing. I can say there's a pink dragon in my bathroom right now. Are you going to believe me just because I said it? You're not going to believe that. You see what I'm saying? Okay, but let me let Jovan go because Jovan was trying to get in. Go ahead, Jovan. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I was just saying the Dead Sea Scrolls are literally just the Old Testament, which is a book that had been existing at that time for thousands of years. It's our oldest copy. It's the oldest copy ever found for us to know. Oh shoot, this has been a we knew it had been around forever, but this kind of proves historically that it has. The Dead Sea Scrolls doesn't tell us anything else but that. Just that, like, here's a copy, and it's not even. I'm pretty sure it's only like a specific couple of books of the Old Testament. It's not even the full text, but all it is hey, here's historical evidence of this book that we knew existed at the time. That's it.
Well,
That's all it does. It doesn't
Well,
tell
no,
us
I,
no,
anything
we
else.
don't look at it. We don't look at it in that way because we know according to the scriptures that what we have in the Old Testament is affirmed in the New Testament. There's even scriptures that have been recited in the New Testament. Like we even have a scripture in Luke 24 that said the Psalms, the prophets, and all those things concerning him. So we don't
Hold
look
on.
at that view.
The Old
Wait, wait,
Testament
wait.
Here's a
had
problem.
can I
been
answer?
around
Can I
for
answer this question?
years before Jesus was even born. The Old Testament had been around for
Exactly.
generations.
Yeah, I
Exactly.
was about to
And
say
the
right.
reason
So
why we
so
have
so
and the
hold on.
reason why we
Pause
have
everybody.
those.
Pause everybody. Pause everybody. Pause everybody. So like this is the but Joanne already pointed this out, but this is the issue that you're gonna have, right? If these people are gonna say yes, the Psalms are concerning this Messiah miracle worker. Of course they're gonna say that. They have access to the Psalms. So all they gotta do is say, oh, the Psalms are about this guy. It doesn't make them about that guy for real. But the Psalms have been around for thousands of years. Of course, if they want to make a story about a Messiah, they're gonna say that Psalms is a prophecy of the Messiah. Of course they're gonna do that because they have access to it.
Yeah, like the books were written before the time of the New Testament. And then also like another thing, when it comes to like Jesus's divinity, what I find oftentimes is that Christians try to demonstrate that the resurrection is highly probable to have happened, and then with that they say if Jesus can rise from the dead, he can do all these other things. But yeah, we don't have any firsthand accounts of like Jesus healing a blind man. We don't have any firsthand accounts of any of the other miracles, like no firsthand accounts.
I feel like
So are you
I feel
holding?
like you
Go ahead.
verify these events, you verify these supernatural claims historically, not scientifically. These supernatural events are clearly they're one time. They're not going to happen every day. They're
Yeah,
historical events for a reason. So the method of verification is going to change.
I agree. So
But most
so I'm not using
yeah,
like a
but most
scientific
historians
process.
ask. What we most historians do ask is is a supernatural claim documented in multiple independent sources? Were there eyewitnesses, including skeptics? Were the witnesses, let's say, were they credible and willing to die for their testimony?
Well,
And
like wait,
is the
hold on.
supernatural claim the best? Is the supernatural claim the best explanation for the evidence? We don't observe Julius Caesar crossing the Rubicon today, do we? We rely on historical documents and eyewitness reports. The resurrection of Jesus is treated the same way.
Yeah.
Historical investigation, not a lab experiment.
Wait,
And we have
yeah.
multiple.
So like,
Hold
wait,
on. Let me finish. I'm not gonna be
well,
talking
yeah.
long.
But the thing is, like, I didn't use any scientific process, right? You don't have any firsthand accounts of like the blind man or raising Lazarus back from the dead or curing leprosy. And like typically history is going to be like people's accounts of things or like written documents. So given that when we're examining this stuff, like at best you could argue for like accounts of like the resurrection. And also like another thing that kind of works against you is like a majority of people during that time couldn't read or write. So like all those people that Jesus fed in the desert when he multiplied fish and bread, illiterate. Like all those people that witnessed him bring Lazarus back from the dead, illiterate.
Those people wasn't scribes though.
Yeah, so there's only a few people.
They wasn't scribes.
like,
They were learning. So they wasn't scribes. They were learning. You see what I'm saying? So you can't hold that view to people that are learning and those who were recording information and writing this stuff down. That's
Yeah, but that's like an issue for you, right? Nobody could read or write, and there's only a few people who can do it. And
History
so you
don't
have
say that
any-
there was.
so you-
History
so you
don't say
really
there
have
was
any,
no
like,
one.
firsthand accounts of anything.
Yeah, but history don't say no one could read or write.
Wait, no, that's a known fact. A lot of people were like illiterate and couldn't read or write during that time period. A lot of the Jews,
But not the
they
scribes though.
reading
The
or writing.
not the scribes, brother.
Yeah,
We have-
and
they were
despite that,
scholarly and sound. They were not illiterate.
Right. The scribes were not illiterate, but Jesus and his disciples were.
Yes, yes. Okay, so can I ask you, Coco, do you hold to anything supernatural?
No, I'm an agnostic, but yeah, I don't hold to anything supernatural. Typically,
Okay,
it's going to be like science or empirically
okay,
vetted or demonstratable. I do hold to like things that are conceptual, like laws of logic, but even that is demonstratable to some extent.
okay. Do you believe that the resurrection happened?
No, I don't believe the
No,
resurrection
they don't
happened.
believe that.
Nope.
Okay, all right. Do you believe Christ is an actual figure, like a historical figure?
Yeah, I'll grant that like Jesus existed, but that's because we have so many writings about him.
Yeah,
So like,
that's what I'm saying. So the writers who wrote about them, they were not illiterate. They transferred this information so we can have access to it. So
yeah, yeah. But like the thing that I'm pressing on, right, is that we don't have any firsthand written accounts about like Jesus bringing Lazarus back from the dead or any of the miracles. And like,
So why?
really,
So
I
I feel
mean,
like we
who
do
wrote
have.
that?
you don't even have firsthand accounts of like the resurrection.
Well,
Who
you're
Um,
right.
wrote
You're
who
right.
wrote that
You're right.
gospel?
We
Let
don't
me.
have
No,
a
we
video
don't. But
camera or modern journalists recording
they
Jesus
were
healing the
writing
blind,
during that time.
but we
That's
do
what I'm
have
saying.
eyewitness testimonies preserved in letters and gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
yeah,
Paul.
But
given that
none of
we
those are eyewitnesses. Not Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John were written 40 years afterwards, and they're not eyewitnesses. We don't even know who
Yeah.
wrote them.
What I was
yeah,
saying,
I
it
mean,
doesn't deny that they wasn't written.
No,
It
it
was.
was written, but we don't know who wrote them, so they're not eyewitness.
We don't. Do we? All right. So let me ask.
We
I
know
asked my.
Homer wrote about the Battle of Troy, but that doesn't mean that we're gonna believe that Zeus came from the sky, are we?
Yeah, yeah. I got you on the supernatural argument. But
We
it
don't know.
don't deny that this information was written and is evidence. That's what I'm saying. It's like it's as if you're posing an argument that this information don't exist. Do you believe that there was a Pontius Pilate?
Yeah, because we have records of Pontius Pilate, but no
All
one
right,
is
but
saying.
what
Hold on, wait,
happened?
hold on,
What?
wait. Listen,
That's
y'all. Hold on, wait, listen, because I need to make this distinction. There's a distinction between saying that writing down that someone was in an area or existed, and that someone did something supernatural. Because throughout all cultures, like we're just going off of Jesus. If we go into ancient Chinese culture, there were people that were saying that were saying that they got formed into dragons and stuff like that. None of us believe any of that stuff, right? Even in our own culture and ancient like African culture, right? The god Shango was deified because Shango was an actual person, but he's a legendary figure, right? He was likely a real person that got deified into a sky god because he was probably a great warrior and he lived like 6,000-7,000 years ago. You feel me? So like we're not saying that these people being written down is not the issue. The issue is the claims over what they actually did. How do we
Yeah.
actually verify that?
But
Because
we don't have
we have
a
no way
signed
to actually
copy.
verify that.
We don't have a signed copy to know Caesar crossed the Rubicon, do we? Or we don't have a signed copy to know that Socrates drank hemlock. What matters is the content, the eyewitness based in public scrutiny, which all of which the gospels have passed. I'm saying, but that's not how that's not how history works. Sure, maybe we don't have the autographed manuscript signed, but that is not how history works, sir.
that is how history
So
works.
why
Like,
do you keep
whenever
bringing up
it comes to
eyewitness accounts if it's not how history works?
We have many ancient documents that have uncertain authorship, like Homer's Iliad, Caesar's commentaries, or Tacitus' works. Historians don't discard the content just
Wait,
because
hold
the
on.
exact author is unknown. What
Wait,
matters
wait,
is are
wait,
the
wait,
events
when it comes
plausible?
to when it
Are
comes
the
to
events
Right,
plausible?
right. So let's stop
Oh my
there.
god.
Let's stop there. So are the events plausible? No, that's true. Are the events plausible?
Are the
And what?
sources early
Hold on, wait,
in the
hold on.
text?
Listen. Are the events plausible? And every single time it's shown that supernatural events are not plausible.
How the gospels pass all three. The
Okay,
gospels
so
pass
so
events
so
being
if
plausible.
supernatural events are plausible, Shango is a god.
What do you mean?
If supernatural events are plausible, is Orochimaru a magic samurai who pierced the heavens with a sword and caused a great flood? Because that's in Shintoism.
No, I think what I'm trying to say is they passed the test of being plausible by by meaning historians will ask, could this have actually happened? Crucifixion, miracles, obviously resurrection appearances. They're
And
extraordinary.
they say no, not the resurrection, the crucifixion, yes. Him being a preacher, yes, but resurrection and ascension into the sky, no. There's no way to verify that.
But
Supernatural
but
events are not plausible because if you're gonna say that the supernatural event of Jesus is plausible, why isn't the supernatural event of Caesar being the son of Jupiter plausible? Why isn't that plausible?
I feel like the core facts about Jesus' life, Jesus lived, preached, he was crucified, and his tomb was found empty. They are historically plausible
We have no
because we
evidence
have
that he was even
consistent
buried in a tomb. The
we have
Romans used to
consistent
the Romans the
context.
Romans the Romans always threw their victims of crucifixion into mass graves. Why would they give Jesus a tomb?
Because it's consistent context. If you look at all
That's
the
not consistent at
historical
all.
documents
Yeah,
that we
they
have,
didn't. They
That's
didn't
not
do that
consistent at
with.
all.
They didn't. No, they didn't do that with Christ's body.
Why what make Jesus so special? Hold on. Jesus was an enemy of the state. Why would they put him in a tomb and not in a mass grave with everybody else?
So this leads to context. Why was he the enemy of the state?
He
What
was the
was he
enemy of
doing? What was
he was the enemy of the
Why?
state. He was the enemy of the state the same way I would be the enemy of the state if I became very popular online saying that I'm going to take down America and rise a new nation in its place.
It actually
The CIA would start looking at me, wouldn't it?
so okay? So do they have confinement? Do they have confinement?
really quick,
Consignment
Josh,
for.
hold on.
Okay, go ahead.
Josh, really quickly, I just want to say two things. One, it was even more petty than that. It was literally just because people were claiming he was king of the Jews, and Romans hated it when people laid claim to thrones that were not theirs. They got real mad about it. And second, the only claim that exists that Jesus was buried in a tomb comes from the New Testament. You can't use the claim as the evidence. The New Testament is the claim. You need to provide evidence that the New Testament is true, and it can't be that he was buried in a tomb because the New Testament told us so. That's just circling, like, you're creating a loop.
Yeah, you
Infinite
can
loop.
you can definitely use current information to prove evidence. We're doing it right now, so I don't know what you mean about that.
All right.
So
So
the point is,
hold on, everybody pause, everybody pause. So this is what I was trying to address, Josh. What we know about what the Romans did is that when they crucified people, they buried them in mass graves. So why would Jesus be different?
That's what I was saying. Based on what he spoke, what he said, him being God and the things that he did, they put him in consignment. They didn't want anybody. They didn't want anybody to touch his life. Wasn't like any other person. Okay, it wasn't like any other person. His whole life and his the reason for him speaking, the way and all these things that were going on, it wasn't like anybody else.
All right. So your claim was that.
you
So your
forgetting
claim was that. Hold on. Your claim was that they didn't treat Jesus as an enemy of the state because motherfuckers find him special.
What
Really?
happens to people? No.
Really, my nigga? Really, bro?
No,
Hold on, stop. Think about what you just said, bro. Think about what you just said.
I'm there.
Hold on, bro. Think about what you just said. Jesus was an enemy of the state, and they always threw enemy of the states in the mass graves, except for Jesus because, well, that motherfucker was special. Come
All right,
on, bro.
No. Check me out. Check me out. Hear me real quick. Do they put? Listen.
To toss the Christians a bone.
No. Hear me real, Jay. Hear me real quick.
Hold on. I
Yo,
would
can
say
I
that,
speak, bro?
Wait, hold on. So technically, Joseph of Arimathea is charged with
I was
buying
just
the
about to
tomb.
say that. I was just about to say Joseph was the one that buried him. It wasn't the Romans that buried him.
Yeah, they didn't. That's what I was going to
The
that.
Romans were going
Yeah.
to leave Jesus' body on the cross. That was their custom. But Jesus' burial was different. Like he was about to say, Joseph of Arimathea was the one that requested the body, and the Roman soldiers were instructed to comply, likely to prevent unrest. The authorities didn't want a riot over an unburied body. So even as an enemy, burial was politically expedient and socially acceptable in that situation. And Joseph of Arimathea, he provided a new tomb, for Jesus. It it had nothing to do with the Romans. Really, it was Jewish law that valued burial. Even for executed criminals, bodies were to be buried before sundown on the day of death.
So
That's
we
just
have
how-
evidence that Joseph of Arimathea took Jesus' body.
Sorry, say that one more time.
We have evidence that Joseph of Arimathea took Jesus' body, or does that only come from the Bible itself?
No, there are contemporary evidence. There's other evidence of Joseph of Arimathea. Sorry, I can't talk tonight.
New Testament, friend. Literally, it's nowhere else. Anywhere else, they're quoting the New Testament.
But to me, here's my thing. We have over, it's about 5,000 Greek manuscripts of the New Testament, plus 1,000 more in Latin, Coptic, and other languages. We have fragments. Hold on, let me finish. We have fragments that date within decades of the original writings. Compared to other ancient works, like I always like to bring up Homer's Iliad, there's only 17,000 manuscripts. Caesar's, it says there's only 10 manuscripts. The New Testament is, to me, the best attested document of the ancient world, historically speaking. If manuscript counts, if manuscript count equals credibility, the New Testament wins. If
That does not, manuscripts don't equal credibility.
Yeah, the amount of manuscripts that they are doesn't make it any more credible. Besides, the Romans probably have way more manuscripts than what the Gospels are. But Leo, I just got to interrupt real quick because it's getting late. It's about 10 o'clock right now. We're gonna go to at least 10:20, and then I gotta go ahead and get out of it because I gotta get to sleep. You know, I've been yelling on the mic this whole time, and my lady wants to go to bed because we got work tomorrow. So I've been yelling on this mic for about 2 hours. This was an amazing live, though. I appreciate you all being here. We're at 60K. I appreciate y'all for getting me to 60K. Tomorrow, let's reach for that 100K. I hope that you all followed me. Excuse me. I hope you all follow me. Go ahead and gift up the panel, whoever you agree with. I appreciate Coco and Jovan for being on. Follow those guys. They're amazing. They have great content. Follow Jovan on YouTube. Great YouTube channel. He's always debunking these Magamites, these crazy ass MAGA people. It's amazing. I've learned a lot about trans issues from Jovan as well. I've gotten really educated about transgenderism and what it actually means, et cetera, et cetera. So go ahead and follow those guys. If you're a fan of them, follow me as well. This month I'm talking religion, but next month in December I'm gonna be back on politics. All right. So I'll see y'all then for next month on politics. But we're gonna be going until it's 10:08 right now. We'll go to 10:20, and then I'll get off for me to catch some Z's, probably watch an episode and get to sleep. But where do we leave off at? We left off at Jovan, and then Q. I want you to get to your fourth and fifth point so we can go ahead and end the live. Go ahead, Jovan. What were you saying? The last thing you were saying?
I mean, my whole overarching point is pretty simple. We can't keep using the Bible to justify itself. So if we want to say Jesus was buried in a tomb and Jesus rose from that tomb I need evidence outside of the Gospels, two of which were written anonymously. Actually, they were all written anonymously, but almost all of them not claiming to have been eyewitnesses. One specifically says, I don't remember who, but one of them is very staunchly like, I was not there. I am just writing what people have told me. So, we can't use these as claims for the proof of that. So we would need some sort of something. It's crazy to me that the Romans, who were super meticulous about keeping records, right? They were very, very hardcore record keepers, didn't happen to write, hey, yo, we let this dude who claimed to be God's son be buried in the tomb, and then, hey, yo, he's gone. I would have felt like that would have been like massive news from the Romans.
So do you hold to Josephus and Tacitus?
I think Josephus was a person who wrote stuff, yeah.
Yeah, see, this is what I was saying about discrediting.
Josephus wasn't there. Josephus never claimed to have been there. Never once claims to have been there. And most historians agree Josephus was not there.
Yeah, Josephus was like I think about 10 or 15 years after Jesus. I think he was born when Jesus was walking around, but he didn't start writing things until like he was like what 40. But Josh, what was actually your point about Josephus? What about him?
What I was saying earlier about discrediting early historians and archaeologists who wrote this information. You were saying you weren't there, but these people were there, and we have access to this information now.
One person that was there that you have an account from.
I don't
You
have
have
the
not
account.
one single person who was
I
there.
I personally didn't have the account, but I have evidence of that account. That's we
So
have.
this is what we're saying, Josh. Outside of the Bible, we have nothing. Literally nothing.
There's a lot of evidence outside the Bible. You have Tacitus, Suetonius, Roman records of you have
Right.
Pilate,
They have
the
records of
Pilate
him.
stone. What about the Pilate stone?
Right.
inscription that mentions
Those
That's why I asked
those
him,
are
did he
records.
know about Josephus.
Those are records
But he read
of
is outside the
guys.
Bible.
Guys, listen. Those are
Yeah.
records of Jesus existing as a person. Yes, we all good with that. We're talking about him healing a blind man by spitting on him, rising Lazarus from the dead, coming back to life after being tortured to death, and then flying to the sky like Superman. That's what we don't have. We have nothing about that.
Okay, so it's not that you deny the evidence; you just deny the
Stone just tells us
supernatural.
that Pilate existed, by the way. It only
Yeah.
says, hey, there was a dude named Pontius Pilate who existed. That's
No,
we're, like mostly we're not in
Pilate,
contention
Pontius Pilate
that
did
these things
exist, though.
happen.
We're not denying that. No,
Yes,
no
we
one's
know that. I'm
no.
not denying that because there
Is,
is evidence outside of the Bible that claims Pontius Pilate was real.
I
So I
think
so are you
agree.
saying
I
Josephus
agree.
is Josephus writings inside the Bible?
Wait, hold on. But when it comes to Josephus,
No, but Josephus was not
But-
an eyewitness.
yeah, Josephus
And-
is just writing what he heard from other
Yeah,
Christians.
that's all he's writing. All Josephus is writing is that this is what Christians believe. For example, if I were to write down right now, Al Qaeda believed that America was the worst place ever, and that writing survived 1,000 years. Does that mean that the United States is a sinful nation and the worst place ever because I wrote it down? No, it doesn't mean
no.
that.
You source that evidence. You source that evidence and you search back to find out. We're not just out here just saying things without evidence. No one's just out here
Okay,
saying
so
things.
what is the evidence that Jesus flew to the sky like Superman? What is the evidence of that?
This is where you don't hold to this, but this is the supernatural that you don't hold to. So I can't
Okay.
think about
So
it.
what
If
is
I can
evidence of
video-
the okay, so let's do something simpler then. The supernatural in of itself, like ghosts, demons, spirits, wizards. What is the
Yes.
evidence of that?
Okay, there's other people. Matter of fact, there are people who hold to those beliefs that have had encounters. Those
Okay,
people,
I understand that those people had
Yeah.
encounters. There are people who had encounters with
That's
Elvis.
still not evidence.
Is
No,
Elvis alive?
no, I don't. I don't
No.
hold to evidence
Okay,
being
so
alive.
cool.
I don't hold.
There's
no, I
there's
don't-
people
that's
there's
not my view,
people
though.
there's people in ancient times who had encounters with Amun Ra and Zeus. Is the sun does the sun sit on the head of a dude with an eagle with an eagle beak? Is that true?
Yeah, I told you earlier I don't hold to that.
No,
view.
right? Exactly.
But
So
but what I don't do, I don't discredit. No, go ahead, Jay.
I was just gonna say we have hundreds of written eyewitness testimony that mermaids exist. Hundreds
And
of them.
Bigfoot.
yeah,
Okay,
and
so-
Bigfoot. And the Loch Ness monster.
So so are they real? Are they spiritual? Are they mythical? What's your view
Hell
on that?
no, they ain't real.
Okay, so they
My
ain't
view is
okay.
we
So
found out that they were actually seeing manatees.
so what's the
what I
so
think?
what is
What
the
I think happened
purpose?
with the resurrection? They probably saw some dude on a hill from really far away and thought, "Yo, that kind of looks like Jesus. Is Jesus alive?" And then that myth spread.
You
we
know
don't-
you know
we
you know
don't
what
hold to that.
you know what I think as well, because I saw this on a YouTube channel called Paulogia, because the same thing that he explained happened to me as well. When my homie died, right, back in 2019, I literally had a dream that I was hanging out with him in the park. I could hear him clearly, clear as day, hanging out with him in the park. The next day, I heard him say my name when I was walking away. I heard him say it, right? I think that because Jesus was such an important person to these people, they had a death delusion, basically. They had a dream that he was alive, and they heard his voice, and then they thought that he was actually alive. but he
Yeah,
wasn't.
yeah. So for the record, like Paul has a reason to be. Well, actually, okay. So Peter has a reason to be guilty because he denied Jesus 3 times when that chicken or cock crowed, and Paul just feels guilty because he was like assassinating like Christians left and right all over the place, right? And then like these people were mourning. These people were
Yeah, I'm gonna
mourning.
respond to the Peter. What when you read the rest of that, Jesus asked him questions when he denied, right? And matter of fact, Jesus says he's gonna do that. So that's what I'm saying. You point out
Well,
you
yeah,
did
but like
wait,
then
wait,
like
wait. You
like
brought out a piece, and
okay.
you brought out a piece to me, but you didn't read the whole thing,
Well,
the
when
whole
no,
encounter.
like all I'm saying is like, yeah, Peter knows about that stuff, but that doesn't mean that he won't feel guilty about it. He
Yeah,
probably
he
feels like
felt
really
guilty,
guilty.
and yeah, he felt guilty, and then
Okay, yeah,
Jesus,
granted. So like
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
saying like
So
he felt guilty, and then also these people are grieving like what they thought to be the savior. So
yeah,
like one thesis could be that they had bereavement visions, right? This is very common. People who their loved ones pass away, they have visions of
what? So
their
this my
loved
thing.
one
What is the evidence? What
with
of
their
the
Most people don't
evidence?
have visions together. It's impossible for everyone to have a hallucination together.
Yeah,
That's
that's
scientific.
already
But
been
we don't
debunked.
have
We
any
don't. They
evidence.
don't
Yeah,
have.
yeah,
We
yeah.
don't hold to
There's
that.
no
Granted.
evidence.
Yeah, granted, but
There's
then
no
Hallucinations
like
don't
evidence that
happen in
500 people saw
groups.
Jesus resurrect. So
Or
we
people
don't. There
tripping
was
on drugs
there's
have
no
like
mass
individual
delusion.
experiences.
Right. Hold on. Because people said
I think I'm lagging. So my apologies if I am.
no. I'll go, Javon. Yeah, I think we were all talking at the same time. All right. So I think what Josh and Q were saying was that these people could not have a mass delusion at the same time. Coco was saying granted, and then I think he was gonna say the same thing Jovan was saying is that we don't really have any evidence that all of them did see Jesus resurrect from the dead, right? Which is just it's just a
Yeah,
story in the book.
the only proof.
yeah. So
The only,
basically
it's
like
not even that. The only proof of the 500 people is from one line in one letter from I think it was Paul, and
yeah.
in none of the Gospels write it. But none of the Gospels say that when Jesus resurrected, 500 people were waiting and saw him. The only thing is one line from one letter of Paul. So I very much doubt that there
But
were anybody
what I
witnessing
was
the
telling
quote
you,
unquote
Jay,
resurrection.
that don't deny if it's one line, 2 lines, 5 lines. That don't deny the evidence.
That's
You're
Wait, no,
not
just
no.
evidence. That's the problem,
Wait, hold on.
no.
Wait,
Chills.
also
That's not
wait.
evidence.
Wait, like
So
another thing I find
recorded information.
ridiculous. Wait, another thing that I find ridiculous is that like Paul is literally just a mouthpiece for like the early church, right? Like
Who
Paul.
commissioned him to be the mouthpiece
Yeah.
according
So
to the scriptures?
yeah. So first off, I mean, I'm already saying Paul is like mentally ill, and then
No,
like
no, no. I'm not saying he's mentally ill. I'm saying who
Oh, yeah. Hold
commissioned.
on. So like
That's what I'm saying.
Paul's persecuting people. We already know that Schmurder causes like effects in the brain. He converts to Christianity. He meets up with Matthew, Mark, and like the early church, right? And what Paul is writing is simply what the church is telling him. This 500 number, he's getting it from the church. He wasn't there with the 500 people, and there were 500 people that saw Jesus supposedly resurrect, and none of them wrote stuff because a lot of people there were like illiterate and couldn't read.
Yeah, we
So
we
this is
established that
probably from
we
that
established
account.
that earlier that the other people that were learning were not scribes. We already
Well,
went
yeah,
through
but
that.
like the only
Yeah,
person that you have for the 500 is literally Paul. You don't have anyone that was a part
yeah.
of the 500
What? So
writing
the
anything.
history of Paul is that first of all, he spoke 14 different languages. He was a scholar,
He
and he was
wasn't there. He wasn't there for the 500. He wasn't there witnessing the
exactly,
resurrection.
exactly. But
He's
you
just
don't hold to
saying, he's just saying
supernatural
what
side.
people told him.
Yeah, so you don't hold to the supernatural. So I don't go that
Wait,
view.
do you not understand? Paul is just saying what people told him. He
No,
wasn't
no,
there for the
no.
resurrection.
So I
This
asked you,
500
who
number is
Why did
commissioned?
none of the
just saying
Who
what
Josh?
people
commissioned?
told him.
Josh,
Who
let him
commissioned
finish.
Jesus?
Josh,
What's
let
up,
him
Jay?
finish. Josh.
Go
Why
for
did
it.
none of the Gospels write? Why did none of the Gospel authors write about 500 people witnessing the resurrection?
Okay, so Luke is the one who wrote Acts. Okay,
Yeah.
If
all right.
there's
So
none of that is in Acts.
what? Have you read the Bible?
There is nothing in Acts about 500 people seeing the resurrection.
I have to
No,
check
we
it
know
out.
we understand the synoptic gospels. All right. So we got that, and but
Oh,
you don't. But I can't come to you with the supernatural because you're not gonna believe it. If I tell you that it was prophecy,
this wouldn't be
you're not gonna hold to
supernatural.
that. Yeah.
Wouldn't-
So
Acts does
that's what I'm saying.
not mention
If I come to you,
Paul,
500 people witnessing the resurrection.
Paul
So
mentioned the
I'm getting ahead.
500 in First Corinthians, correct?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So that's what I'm saying. You won't
Yes,
hold
but
to.
that is the only instance of it being mentioned is that one line where he says Jesus appeared to 500 brothers during his that's the only evidence that 500 people. There's no historical
So listen
evidence.
to what you just said. You
But
Nobody,
said
no.
that's only
to
one
me,
evidence. So that don't
Paul's
deny the evidence.
No, it's
That's
no,
one
yes,
he.
evidence.
exactly.
Hold on,
It
wait,
doesn't
hold on,
deny.
hold on, stop. Everybody, stop. Listen, he actually misspoke. He meant to say claim. That's the only place where that actually appears. Like that Jesus appeared to 500 people, but that is a claim. How do
But
we
couldn't
know?
the
Hold on, wait,
early
listen. How do we know that line in the Bible is actually true? That it actually
couldn't
happened?
the
But
couldn't the early
it's because
churches they could
go
have
ahead.
immediately refuted a false claim, right? If it were made up.
No, they couldn't.
Also, wait, hold on, really quick.
No.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I'll speak after.
So to the early church, they could not have said, "Yo, you're lying. We're not. You're like." They could refute a false claim if it were made up. Paul's letter preserves the early
Right.
eyewitness claim.
So yeah,
yeah,
so first of all, we don't even know if Paul wrote Corinthians as a first name, because there are books in the Bible that we know that are attributed to Paul that he didn't actually write.
Corinthians was written in 58, written about 50 AD. Written is before any gospel.
Yeah.
Before
So
any gospel.
you do
It
have that.
explicitly mentions the 500 eyewitnesses.
Yeah.
Right.
And Paul's letter circulated widely among early churches. The gospel writers didn't need to repeat what was already known.
Right. I understand that, but when this is a new thing going on right now, when it's a new movement and people are splintering apart, we're not really splintering apart, but spreading it, there are going to be claims that are spreading all over the place, right? But this when it comes to this line or in the Bible, when it comes to Corinthians, this is simply what actually made it into the Bible. There could have been other things going around at the time that either didn't get written down or are just lost to history, right? We're just never gonna see what was written down. But this is what made it into the This is what made it into the Bible. But just because this certain thing made it into the Bible, and just like, how do we actually verify that Jesus was appeared to 500 people, or that he actually resurrected at all? How do we actually verify these claims? Because this is just a line. Hold on, listen. This is just a line in the Bible. How do we know that this actually happened for real?
I
want to keep going with this, but both of you gonna tell that if you don't bounce.
You don't deny.
Hold on.
Pause.
Wait, go ahead, Jovan. What you saying?
I want to keep going with this. I just want you to know that you're gonna get yelled at if you don't bounce.
Yeah. I know. She's staring at me right now, bro. she's giving me the death stare right now. Yeah, she is. She's giving me the death stare right now.
My last answer is, before you go, I know you gotta go. My last answer is just treat the Bible like a historical source, like he says. Historians don't automatically dismiss the Bible. They treat it like any ancient document. They ask who wrote it, how soon after events, and are there independent accounts. In the case of the resurrection, I think Paul, in First Corinthians, it predates the Gospels and mentions the resurrection and the appearances to over 500 people. It's an early source, and it circulates within 20 years of Jesus' death. To me, that's close enough to eyewitnesses to allow verification at the time.
Right, but historians always say that they can't verify anything supernatural. They always say that, because if we're going to take one supernatural claim, we're going to take all of supernatural claims, and no historian says that they're going to seriously take Thor or Amun-Ra or Orochimaru or Brahma as real supernatural. None of them do that. So why would they do something for Jesus? Like it will basically just be cultural bias at that point to take Jesus' supernatural claims as actual true, and not the Native Americans or the Africans or the or Thor or anybody like that. There will be no reason to do that.
I'll say last, the scripture says that, and I know y'all know this, but the scripture says that he is the way, the truth, and the life, right? So no one else take that claim. I haven't seen anybody else with Buddha, Krishna, anybody else haven't took that claim. So that's why we hope. Well, it may be irrelevant to you, but that's what we hold to. So we have this preserved documentation that has been translated, transliterated, and given to us. That's why I said earlier, before we denounce or before we debunk, there's a scripture in James who was apostle and who was an apostle to the church. He said it like this.
All right. Pause for me, because we're not gonna go into preaching. We're not gonna go into preaching. All right. We understand that this was written down and y'all really chose to like it, but that doesn't make it true just because it was written down. All right.
Yeah,
But
right.
I do gotta go ahead and get out of here. I do appreciate y'all being here. Hey,
Sure.
back. I'm gonna decline you back. Back is always a waste of time.
Be
Q,
safe,
I
guys.
appreciate you being up here, Q.
Sir, be safe.
No
Could I
problem.
also say like one last thing and then we can go? But it's up to you.
Yeah, go ahead. Say one last thing, because I'm gonna get out of here.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say like Paul's journey on the road to Damascus was in Acts. The 500 people was in the Corinthians Creed, and yeah, like someone says that they're God, that doesn't really like mean anything. Like someone made a claim that they were God. Like okay, Muhammad said that the Quran was written by God Himself.
Yeah.
We have to evaluate these claims.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Appreciate you, Coco. Hey, y'all, follow Coco. Does great day of debates. Appreciate you, Coco.
Yep.
All right, and the last one here, my new one, Jovan. Jovan, I appreciate you being here. You've inspired me a lot to do my own content, and hope to see you on more. All right.
All right, brother. You have a good one.
All right, have a good one, bro. All right, guys, I'm going to get out of here. I appreciate you all being here. I appreciate everyone who's been talking to me over on YouTube. Kratos, I appreciate you being in the chat. Jake, I appreciate you being in the chat. Well-adjusted, Secular Smoke, I appreciate you all. For anyone who watched me on Instagram, Child Free, I appreciate you joining. Exodus, I appreciate you joining. Maria, I appreciate you joining there. For anyone who's been watching me on Facebook, Catherine, Simon, you guys are amazing. Y'all are wonderful. Shout out to Black Atheist over on Facebook. I appreciate y'all watching me there. But we're going to go ahead and end it off here. Too bad that Bundy Skywalker never showed up. Bundy Skywalker was supposed to be the one debating me tonight. We made this whole plan. He told me give him a week. I gave him that whole week. Yeah, I mean, I told him 3 hours ago, hey, bro, I'm going on live 15 minutes. Here's the link. Join up. Dude never joins. I even tagged him on Facebook, told him to join up. He never joined up. So it is what it is, y'all. But I've been on for 3 hours. It's about to be 10:30. I got to get out of here before my wife beats the hell out of me. So, yeah. All right, she's not abusive, y'all. She's not abusive. My wife is not gonna beat me up. My wife is not gonna beat me up, y'all. She's not abusive. Don't believe that. I'm blinking twice. All right, I'm blinking twice. Let me go ahead and get out of here, y'all. Hey, y'all, I appreciate the 64K likes. Let's reach for 100K tomorrow. That's what I'm gonna reach for tomorrow. It's gonna be Friday tomorrow. We're gonna be here for a while, and I'm gonna be taking an Eddie Winslow on live. All right. Hey, babe, should I take an Eddie Winslow on live? Oh, man. All right, y'all. I'm going to get out of here for real. I appreciate y'all. We're at the 3 hour mark. Y'all wonderful. I will see y'all tomorrow. Shout out to Tahir. Y'all wonderful. Remember to stay focused, stay smart, stay observant. Remember your fallibility and remain thoughtful. Love y'all. Peace.